Hello, everybody! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Tyler. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Excellent. Good to be back.
It's good to have you back, Tyler. Absolutely. And today, we're going to talk about Ossiarch Bonereapers. Jesse, why am I credited in the player's handbook? I am credited in the player's handbook because I was one of the early consultants and I helped create 5th edition. I gave them feedback throughout the process from very early on in its inception, way back in like 2011, I think is when I started on that project. So there you go. Anywho,
moral of the story is blame Vince.
Yeah, sure, exactly. If you don't like it, it's my fault. But yeah, as a group of people who they brought in early to help out. Anyways, okay. Also joining us tonight, hey, we're glad to have him back on the show. The Lord of Death himself. It's Brendan. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, yeah, formally titled through one of those Scottish land grants scams. So, you know, legally binding, non-legally binding, actually Lord now. So, you know.
That's fantastic. I love it.
Just ride that coattails and never win another tournament rest of your life.
Exactly. You've got your title.
Rude. How dare you? I just, show up to the local Rubicons with a list that I wrote on an afternoon because I forgot my lists were due and win it. What do you want from me?
Sure, with something other than death. I get it.
Yeah.
All right. So, as I said, we're going to be talking Bonereapers tonight in the new book. But of course, first we got some news. What's on the table tonight?
We do. Is this Tzeentchian, fellas? What the heck is this thing?
Yeah, it's got to be. It's a Chaos Tzeentch thing, right?
Yeah, Tzeentch thing.
I assume a Warcry / Underworlds thing.
Yeah.
So like that's fine.
Or those it could
are
be
our
a
40K
options.
thing as well.
40K or Warband of some kind are our two and only options on this show.
I should state that if it's like some kind of Chaos Demon, like a Tzeentchian thing, it could be both 40K and AOS. It could be one of those models that goes in both places. That's also possible. Many demon models cross over into both games.
That is very true. I need somebody to tell me if they have noticed any pattern in the text that they have, right? They wrote about artificial intelligence in this week's rumor article. Is there any meaningful statistical correlation between the text and the image?
No.
Does anybody know?
No.
All right. There you go. I figured as much, but I've been curious about that forever.
I would be surprised if by this point they're not just using GPT-4 to generate the text for those articles. Like,
sure. Yeah.
If they've published enough of them that language model could easily just be like, write me rumor engine script for a this type of thing, and it could do it, right? And
absolutely. So. It's a different show, but it's been a wild week, Vince. My former colleague was just on TED stage the other day, telling everybody we're going to die here within our lifetimes due to superintelligence. So
sure.
That was fun.
You're always going to die within your lifetime. Like,
that is true.
That's true.
100% accurate. Well, maybe not. Who knows? Like, I guess we live in a world where anything's possible. But up until this point in history.
That's the trick of the singularity. Yeah, you're either going one of two ways, baby.
Exactly. That's fine.
you got two options, and they're both extreme.
I'll take that coin flip. All right. So that's cool, fun, Tzeentchy, magic-y thing. Great.
Yeah.
I want to give a quick shout out to whoever painted this. I always pay attention to the painting in these rumor engines. When you make it a value sketch alone, it's really easy to see details, and I always feel bad for the painters. Where you're like, I wouldn't want my work zoomed in this closely. Like, what a nightmare.
Yeah.
I'm not Dave Caldwell. I don't paint through millions of tiny dots that are like imperceptibly small and completely smooth to the naked eye. You got to use like an electron microscope to see his differences in his paint. But I want to give a shout out to this painter. Look at them nails. Look at how great the highlighting is on those nails. See that like ring around the thumbnail with a little tiny spot wide highlight up top? Yeah. That's such a nice little touch. That took some real care, because that is going to be just so small. That's like a couple millimeters at most on that model. So A+ work. Whoever did that. Well done. You put in the time, and I just want to say I see you. I see you, painter. Well done. Okay. What's next?
Yeah, we got Big Sunday preview. So we have on pre-order this weekend the Seraphon box set with a whole bunch of goodies. I think 10 of the, what are they called? Razordons?
Raptordons?
Raptordon, something R. 10 Saurus Warriors, and a lovely Slan Starmaster. Got the cards, the little cards, got the Warscrolls, got a special edition Battletome. Hopefully Gold Leaf. I've got a friend Chad who's gonna lose his mind if it's not Gold Leaf.
I don't think they ever put the gold leaf ones in the boxes.
Oh, sorry, Chad.
It's just the alt cover.
Your fetish is gonna take a hit. Yeah, looks like a good bot. Raptodon. There we go. I love those models. I gotta admit, apart from the little idiots that are riding them, we could just get rid of those. We don't need those. But
the
good
little
box.
idiots that are riding them. Fantastic. I mean, I will say,
It's not wrong.
Look, I like a skink. I like a skinker-do. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. At certain points in history, they've been annoying model-wise, but I don't hold that against them. I've always
At
liked
all
the
points.
skink model. Oh, well, that's not true. Trust me, there were points back in Fantasy Battle days where they were not anything to write home about.
That's fine.
And there were points in
skirmishers
there,
and screens, and that
Yes.
was their job.
and there was points in that where they were actually super good. It comes and goes. There was a pretty awesome Mordheim warband full of skinks that was pretty brutal. Because they could go to like bow skill 6 if memory serves. Crazy high, ridiculous number. It's like elvish bow skills. Anyways, yeah, it's a really great box. Looks super cool. Obviously, a whole bunch of Seraphon leaks have happened. As far as the book goes, I know Haywo is probably on the
Battletome. Yeah.
book right now. So I guess we can all say thanks, Miniac. We appreciate you leaking it out there, as he is now to blame for all leaks, as we know. But we will talk about the Seraphon Battletome in a couple weeks. When we get to it, because we're going to be obviously delayed. These are releasing so fast we can't keep up.
Yeah.
Because next week we have to do Soulblight. Okay. And then the week after that we'll do Seraphon. So it is coming. We'll get to the little dinos. We will have them. But we got to clear our backlog as it were here first. I never thought I'd be in a position where they're releasing so many Battletomes we can't keep up on the show. That's wild.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
can't
goodness,
remember.
Tell me about it.
Like, this is gonna be the most intense period we've ever had. I mean, I know we had like 2019 or 18.
Yeah,
We had
2019 was pretty close.
13 Battletomes, in a year. But Jesus, in this window here, it's been crazy.
Well, we're shoving them all in before obviously 40k 10th, right? Because then prepare now. We're packing this for the crossing. When we arrive in Arrakis, things will be very different. It's going to be a dry desert of releases for quite a while for us. So, and that's fine. Okay. Cool. What else we got?
Yeah. Got Warhammer Fest schedule. They released that this week.
Yes.
So this is happening 29th of April through the 1st of May. We've got Warhammer 40,000 on Saturday kicking off. So I know they're going to unveil all the models for 10th edition there.
Behold,
Warhammer
a
Underworld.
box. It's full of plastic. They are tiny toys that look like tiny people. Half of them are Space Marines, probably. I'm just guessing because I watched a trailer and half of those people were Space Marines. The other half look like bugs, but like not actual bugs, but kind of Starship Troopers and kind of aliens. Like, what if you took those two concepts and smashed them together?
Amazing.
I can't wait.
Yep, I can hear the excitement in your voice.
Absolutely.
Underworlds, Warcry, Middle Earth for Saturday, and then Sunday we got Age of Sigmar at noon. The Heresy. I saw Warhammer of the Old World. I don't know exactly if they announced anything. In terms of what
Are we gonna get a real announcement about the Old World? Is it actually happening?
We're gonna get a real announcement about a real announcement.
That's what it'll be. Yeah, because I didn't put it in the news because I just didn't, honestly, because it wasn't anything. I refuse to support this non-news drip feed they're doing, right? Like Josh A just asked in the chat, how do you feel about the re-release of Bretonnia Warhammer Fantasy Battle models?
We already have them.
Like I have so many painted Bretonians. Like it's beyond reason. I still have my whole square-based Bretonian army. I mean, I have 4 full lances of knights, like full lances, like 12 deep lances. I think I have 84 knights painted total. You know, I
Gross.
have, yeah, exactly. I have all my peasants, all my heroes, all my Pegasus knights. I still have a dozen Pegasus knights on sprue. I still have an uncracked old new in box of questing knights and what were the better ones? Like whatever the best
Grail
ones were.
Knights?
Grail
Grail
Knights.
Knights?
Thank you. Yeah, couldn't you remember?
Look at that.
Good,
Look at
good
that.
memory. And you know, like, so I still got a bunch of that crap. I'm happy I'll apparently be able to sell it to somebody. Now's the time. I can strike while the iron's hot, I guess. I think they're bad models. Now is my honest answer. Like, I'm sorry that's probably going to make some people very sad. At the time, they were pretty nice, but like honestly, those knights, like if you hold one of those knights up to the new Chaos Knight that was released, I mean, it's really not great. It really shows its age. Like, those are aged sculpts. Certainly they have a classic design to them and aesthetic, but man, like, just there's a lot that you would not design like that. They lack cut-ins. They lack sharp edges because the molds were very weak at the time with what they could actually model in plastic. Everything is chunky. Everything is round. The chainmail looks bad. Like, it's just, you know, honestly, my answer is I'm sad that they are just reboxing and re-releasing that stuff. Like, hey, great, my whole army's still valid. I can just rock up and play it. and have appropriate figs on probably basically the right bases. The article was like, maybe some bases will be larger, but we're not telling you what. And I would have loved to see what modern sculpting could have done with those. I feel like it's just kind of, I don't read it as a good sign in my mind. If the answer is just, we resurrected those molds that were old when Warhammer Fantasy Battle died and are going to put them into production again rather than sculpt something new. That tells me we're not putting a whole lot of funding into this little bad boy over here, right? Like, that's
seems a little suspicious. Yeah.
That's not great in my mind. Anyways, that's how I feel about the article. I had complicated emotions reading it because I can't imagine how cool. Yeah, you know, Karstedt, you said it exactly right. That's so perfect. I love my 90s models, but not looking to buy 90s models today. That's so right.
Sure.
That's so right. That's exactly correct. Like, I respect those things. I love those things for what they are. There's a nostalgia to them. I don't want to, like, buy that stuff today. If you put that on a shelf, I'd be like, what is this?
Sure.
Right. So, anywho, I have complicated feelings. That was a long rant. Yeah, are we? But none of these articles are anything. Not a single article they've released on the old world has basically said anything, except it's square bases, and some of them would be slightly larger. And also, yes, we'll probably have the armies you expect. And here's Kislev. Like, that's it. It's 2 sentences. I could wrap up every one of their articles. Right?
Yeah.
And Tomb Kings.
Sure. So I want to know if you're going to get a real article. Like, if you're going to talk about something. And if what they're going to, like, that's what I want to know. Is there going to be a real thing here? Because everything else right now has just been like, eh.
Right. All right. On a more positive note, I'm going to insert a shout out here, Vince. So I watched the Warhammer Plus, what's that called? Black Talon animated series the other day. That thing was awesome. Like, I really enjoyed it. Neat Black Talon and her Black Talon squad. They had Nurgle features. Obviously, that hit a sweet spot. They kind of got into the Chamber of Awakening. I watched a little bit. I haven't finished the latest episode featuring Soul Blight, but it looks quite good so far. I don't know. I'm just really enjoying it. It's like the first time I'm actually getting into some AOS lore, getting intrigued by by the setting that we play this game. It's very rare for me. So yeah, just want to if nobody's watched it and you've got Warhammer Plus, check it out, or interested in getting it. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Nice. Nice.
Have you guys seen it?
I have not.
Probably
I don't have Warhammer Plus, but I love a good animated show, a good animated fantasy show. So
It like legitimately, I thought it was really good.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Put it on Netflix and I'll watch it.
Sure. Yeah.
But I don't know beyond that. So yeah, it's a good question. All right. Cool. Let's see. Boy, oh boy, do we have some bad performance tonight? Is that what's going on? Oh yeah, we're dropping frames left and right and stuff. Isn't that fun? I wonder why that's happening. Good times. I'll play with it. At any rate, cool. What else? So that's all the news, I believe, right?
That's it, man.
Cool, buddy. Okay. Well, then with that, let's go to some pick of the week. Brendan, start us off. What do you got with everybody? What do you want to share?
So my pick was organize. I think that as a community, that you should take some time out of your day, find something that you like, that you really enjoy. Doesn't have to be Warhammer. Just get a group of like-minded individuals and go do it. If there's a way that you really want to play Warhammer, 1,000 points, 1,500 points, put on an RTT, organize a dinner with your club mates, put together a hobby night. Maybe you like gardening. Go run something. Go organize some events that benefits yourself and the community that you're in.
I love it.
Organize.
Love it.
Fantastic.
Could say a lot more about that in other contexts, but I'll be good.
What are you talking about, Tyler?
Tyler, how about you? What do you want to share with everybody?
The Dias cast had Mr. Melnick on.
Hi.
It was an awesome bat rep with the new Soul Blight and Ossiarch. So check that out. Enjoyed that battle report. And Saga of Dice. Rob had Matthias on. And they talked about the new OBR as well. So we're getting into tonight. Matthias is a very thoughtful guy. Been kicking butt with Skaven for a while. His original love was OBR. So it's cool to hear his thoughts on the Battletome.
Very nice. All right. For myself, I have already included the link down in the show notes. Everybody's thing will be included down there. But I included a video from Play on Tabletop. They did a really nice video about Resin Beast. And I get interviewed in there along with a lot of the other judges, a lot of the people who participated. It's a really great miniature painting contest at Adepticon. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And it was just they filmed the whole thing and cut together a really awesome video about the whole experience people went through participating in it. I want people to check it out. I want to see a lot more people bring some Resin Beast entries next year. So yeah, go check it out. It's super awesome. It's linked down below. So thanks to the Play on Tabletop guys for organizing that and doing the whole thing. It was really great, and it was an absolute pleasure. They made it really easy. So yeah, good stuff. All right, nice. Gentlemen. Let's with that, shall we transition to some hobby time? Brendan, what are you working on? He asked, knowing the answer. Yeah.
Working on my Warp Gnaw whole vortex.
It just doesn't pay to do nice things, Brendan.
Yeah,
you
it
get
does.
punished for it.
No, it doesn't.
You get punished for months.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Rantathon 3 last year, part of what we were doing was that every dollar donated, you could put one of those dollars worth of votes towards picking an army that I had to hobby up and play at a tournament. So I am in the process of hobbying the army up. I will be playing in a tournament at the end of April here. It had to be a GT, specifically, a 2-day event. So they don't have a paint requirement, which is good because I'm not going to get the army done in time. So I'm going to play the army, and I'm going to continue my obligation and finish it. one way or the other, but we're painting Skaven.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome to the dark side, baby. All right.
If I can't have fun, no one's allowed to have fun, which is why I'm bringing Storm Friends.
Yeah, see, again, it's where you went wrong. Again, get 120 clan rats on the table, 10-20 gutter runners, some sensor bearers, some rat ogres. You want to mix. You want a cornucopia of models just exploding out everywhere.
No. I want to lay down 12d6 2s x2s, rend 1, damage 2 shots across the board.
Sure.
All day, and making my opponent go, I'm sorry, they do what?
Good stuff.
Terrible.
Well, I'm glad to see you on board, even if it is with my least favorite build of the army. It's still good to have you along on the as part of the Dread Horde here. All right.
I don't enjoy it either, so you and I both don't like this build.
Tyler, what about you? What have you been working on?
Yeah, I'm getting close. Got 5 Black Kings, 2 Blight Lords, few remaining bits and bobs of some other pieces. Got a tree. Got to finish bases, and I'll be good to go for next week's Team GT Colorado Clan Carnage. I'm pumped up for it. I'm actually making it out to a GT this year. It's gonna
You're
be
going
amazing.
to Colorado?
I'm going to Colorado.
Wow, you're traveling?
I'm traveling to a tournament, Brendan.
For Warhammer.
For Warhammer. Still TBD on Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a long ass ways away. It's very difficult for me to get there, apparently. So check it with me in a couple of years. Maybe I can get there and come see you. I've got to give a shout out to a lot of shout outs. My friend Linus, he surprised me. It was a bit of a birthday surprise. He's very nice to me, Vince. You could work on being nice to me again. You have been nice to me in the past. Not necessarily recently, but so maybe work a little bit on that. I do show up to your show a lot.
Sure.
I try to, right? I try to be helpful. Yeah, cool. So he painted up a great unclean one, and it's amazing. We got a dude.
Nice.
Got a dude. Yeah, I put it up on Twitter. Scrub Me Wells. Apparently, that's something. That's a thing. And yeah, I got a dude doing a handstand, probably farting in the wind for everybody's pleasure. It was amazing. I love that model. I'm so into Nurgle, it's a little frightening. I need to get like I don't know.
If you find something you love, go with it. There's nothing wrong with that.
I don't know what's happening. Yeah, it's very strange.
That's great. For me, I finished up this model that I had been doing. He's all done with his base and everything.
What's that?
This is the Ranger from Miniacs Kickstarter. And there he is. So he's got a nice little enchanted forest base, and there'll be a video about that and some other things with him in the future. So he's all done. And then I have started working on this girl right here, which is the Morgan from Journeyman Miniatures. So she's just early doors, just started working on her. But I'm real excited about her. I've been wanting to paint her for a long time. And she's going to be she's gonna be a great time. So there's gonna be some videos about her as well. Like it's gonna be like I said with people, I'm in a whole new hobby renaissance over here. We're just gonna have some fun on the channel. We're gonna be doing some awesome things. So look forward to it and some videos coming up. That model from Journeyman is absolutely gorgeous. Journeyman Miniatures. I mean, check them out. They're really wonderful if you like larger scale stuff and you're looking to do anything sort of display competition things. Okay,
very cool,
gentlemen. With that, shall we turn to tonight's actual topic? OBR. Okay.
I was really worried that like 11th hour you were going to turn it into let's talk about Skaven again.
No, I wouldn't do that to you. All right, let's talk about the Ossiarch Bonereapers.
Yes, you would.
I think Tom and I need to get together and protest the Seraphon show. I think that needs to be a thing that's got to happen.
Neither of you participate?
Yeah, you figure it out, buddy.
Sure. Well, technically, that would be your show, because next week is Soul Blight, and the week after that is Seraphon.
All right. I'll do some mental preparation to stomach 3 hours, minimum 3 hours of the nonsense. All right.
Okay. So let's talk about some Bonereapers.
Yeah.
Let's talk about them bone daddies. Here we go. Okay. First off, I will say this book feels like OBR. On the verisimilitude point, I think they did a pretty good job. Like, yep, that feels like the army. It is grindy. It is, implacable. It is a sort of military force with a strong hierarchical command and control structure. Like, yeah, and that all comes through in the mechanics. So, good work there. Like, I really do think they brought this book up to speed. We got rid of the stupid pre 3.0 mechanic and now just made them the proper master of command points. Like, yep, they sure are. They sure are. Which again, it's fine. I'm okay with that. That is what they should be. I don't have an issue with that build. Like, that is correct. They're playing around very well in the command ability space, and I'm glad to see them building out the structures for this, as we previously mentioned, as we'll see, like the different ways. All like, you're going to be using so many different command points. Honestly, remembering everything you need to do will be the challenge. There is so many things you should be activating depending on the forces you have. That's your big challenge. I do think you still feel the lack of units in this army, both in the amount of points that everything costs. Like, you feel a little light. Like, things are like, it's hard to explain.
Thank God you do feel a little light.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very strong army. Like, if it was on the cheap side, it would be way too strong. Yeah. I feel like it's maybe a little bit on the expensive side, but not like crazy. It feels like there should be like one more unit or something like that. But you also feel just the lack of like diversity in the force. Like, for something that's supposed to be a traditional mixed arms military force, it's like it's missing some components of that, right? It's melee dudes backed up.
Archers.
Sure, like a harrying chariot force or archers or something like that. Like, you have the heavy cav, you don't have like light skirmish cav or whatever. Like, it doesn't, whatever. And it's not the end of the world, but it's one of those armies where I could have seen them really going a long way with just like 2 more units. Right.
Instead, we got store limited edition Bone Shaper.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Got another hero. This is, if there's one habit GW has that I would love for them to just can in 4.0, it's the book and a hero thing. I don't need a new hero with every book. I just don't. Like, we've got enough.
If they're gonna do that, Vince, they need to make the heroes like impactful. Like, make it so that like it opens up a completely different, meaningful build for the army that centers around that hero.
Yep, completely agreed. Like, have it be some very meaningful thing to the overall way the army plays if you include that person or something. Not just. Hey, it's another wizard, but slightly different, or it's another priest, but slightly different, or it's another melee foot hero, but slightly different, right? Like, as we have tended to get. There hasn't been a lot of those guys that have really opened up a lot of space. The ones that occur to me are like, the Arch Revenant or whatever he is for Sylvaneth when it first came out. Because he was such an interesting buff to Kurnoths that didn't have before. And so he kind of opened up that strategy in a big way, right? He became very popular. But most of them don't do that, right? So, anyways. Yeah, the Gladiatrix might be another good example. She certainly was straight busted on her points when she initially came out. So, yeah. 'Cause she was, like, free, effectively. Yeah, and the internal balance is decent, but the thing with this army and the nature of it is there's just going to be some few units that just show up in most lists. Like, most lists are going to have a small cadre of units, and I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing, but it's a thing.
Yeah, Melnick, how do you feel about your expectation on list variety?
It feels really similar to what it was when the book first came out. everything is basically like this roughly 200-ish point slot, right? You know, your Mortek Guard are 150, your Death Riders are 170, but then everything else after that is like 200 to 240, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you basically take your 200 point chunks and you just try and build it all slightly differently. And
Yeah.
I think Vince really nailed it in terms of what it feels like we're missing. Like the Ossifactor's neat. You know, it's a hero who's designed specifically to augment kind of a weirder range of units. I don't know why you'd use him in a list that includes harvesters, but sure, we'll make him buff harvesters. But like that's fine. But you really feel like you're going to end up shoehorned into whatever the dominant build is going to end up being. You know, it's going to kind of like what the book ended up being, which was, this is the build that's good right now. Like 4 catapults, like that was the way you did it for a while. Cool. And then it was 2 units of 9 stalkers in bounty hunters. Cool.
Yeah, absolute worst. Ugh.
Yeah,
Gross.
it's like,
we're good, everybody. We don't need to see that anymore. We're good. Let's move on.
You know, wherever this settles, it feels like it's going to settle in like, this is the most efficient way to run this army. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think that is sort of a function of both the limited number of units, but also just the nature of, like you said, everything being basically the same points cost, right? So there's just not that much you can play around with. You're not making choices to be like, I'll take, like, you're like what you did with the Storm Fiends. I'm gonna go super elite and unusual versus having a ton of little bodies or something, right? Like those choices are on the table. It's just everything kind of slots in and out for itself.
Yeah, and I think this is exactly the same problem that Ironjawz has, where there's such a limited diversity of models that you just end up going like, okay, of like the 5 or 6 boxes that I can buy, that's what they are.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. It's like, I really wish we had gotten a unit of archers or a unit of chariots or light cav or a big stupid scary monster or just anything to kind of open the book up a little bit wider. Like, I'm thrilled, right, that like the emphasis that 3.0 has had is presenting itself, and it's making some of the units that were just units you never took something that you at least think about in the form of Morghast and Immortus Guard. Like Immortus Guard are good. Like they do damage. They're good. They have a better armor save than everything else. Like, you know, 6 months ago, I told, like, you know, what do I build them as? You build them as stalkers. Don't even think about it. Take those extra bits and sell them to someone who needs big shield conversions. Like,
right.
So,
yeah, it seemed like about everything was pretty interesting to me. Like, some will see more play than others, but yeah, they did a pretty good job of making about, you know, every war scroll reasonably interesting, sufficiently interesting.
Sure.
You may not see everything show up, but yeah. What are you guys thinking in terms of, I mean, I know A tier, S tier, B tier, all that, win rate, or like, to me, it's going to be that A tier space. I think it's a very strong book. I think it has probably a high floor and a high ceiling. Like, definitely generalship is going to matter with this Battletome. Some players will get more than others. You'll win by generalship. You'll lose if you get outplayed. I think in a number of times. Yeah, but what do you guys think, Vince, as far as like overall power and where you think this book will end up?
B plus, somewhere in there. Probably 50% to 48 to 50%. And like, I think it'll underhit slightly because the nature of, I think it's complex. I do think there is a relatively decent skill floor, and there's, now that being said, it'll have a low meta representation probably,
right?
Just because I don't think this book is such that it's gonna, like, it's not gonna be the Petrifex Elite season of late 2019 when when, you know, Bone Daddies jumped up to like a 10% meta representation for some reason. a lot of those
Yeah.
people have sold off that army or put it away forever or something like that. I don't think there's nothing in here that's going to bring them back, right?
Yeah.
The long Petrifex winter. So it's not that.
What are you feeling, Melnick, as far as where this will shake out, overall power level, etc.?
I'm in the same space as Vince. It's
Yeah.
probably going to be in that BB plus area. If the meta moves to being a like exclusively combat oriented space,
Mm,
this is an S tier army.
mm,
There are limited to no armies that can go toe to toe with them in just a straight, honest to God, fist fight in a phone booth.
yeah.
Width of the board is, like the board that you're playing on is 30 inches. Cool, you don't have a ton of units. It doesn't matter. You can't do anything. I'm
Mm,
where I need to be. My speed doesn't have an impact. So like there are some missions that they're gonna sit down and they're just gonna go, okay, let's
mm,
go. We're gonna fight right here, and good luck doing anything.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you're also going to come into situations where they are going to just get beaten.
Mm,
The the heroes are very important, right? Obviously, same as most armies. If you can pull them apart, or you can play wide, or you can put yourself in a position where you can apply overwhelming force to one edge of this, they don't
yeah.
have the ability to react very quickly with most of the units that you're going to take.
Right, right. That's what I was feeling, yeah, with this Battletome, that, yeah, there's a number of limitations, like healthy constraints with this book. And so, yeah, starting off with, there's not a lot of range projection. I mean, even I'd be curious your guys' opinions on the crawlers when we get into them later. But I wasn't blown away by the crawlers, which I was very happy to not be blown away by the crawlers. I think they're playable. There's rate limiters on command abilities. There are a growing number of ways in the game to turn off command abilities. I mean, starting with Overpowering Stench with Nurgle, that was kind of the OG of AOS 3.0. There are a growing number of ways to turn off wards. The army has a number of healthy constraints. It seems very much on brand though. It's incredibly efficient. Like, it does save stacking really well. It's got multiple ways potentially to debuff you, minus to hit, reducing your wards, etc. -3 to charge, holier than 12, right? All these different things they can do. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of, some games will happen where it will feel terrible playing against OBR.
Sure.
Right? Because you just won't be doing much. You won't be getting through the saves. They'll be blending through you, etc. But in general, yeah, I really like how this Battletome came out. Like, I think the variety as far as the constraints, right? We would need some more Warscrolls. There's a lot of viable variety within it. The points, that's going to keep a lot of this in check. Maybe they're too high. I certainly don't think they're too low. They're pretty stout, some of these. So yeah, really, really positive on this Battletome personally.
Okay. Cool. Well, let's get into it. All right. Let's talk Allegiance abilities first. First up, ranks unbroken by descent. They don't take battle shock tests. Cool. All right, great. So they still have that. I mean, most of the game wants to ignore this mechanic, so I guess cool. It is interesting because there is a rise of a lot of stuff. Rise chicken. There's a rise of a lot of stuff in the meta that shuts off Inspiring Presence. Yeah. And it's funny how all of those things are just complete blank points against this army, which is funny. Like, when that originally happened versus now, and all of the tech that's out there that you can spend points on to do that thing, and then what that ends up becoming a total whiff against this army is interesting and fun, how that ability's changed.
Yeah. Personally seems appropriate. Like, I get it why they would have that.
Sure.
Hyper elites, and yeah, you don't want to be losing 10 more tech guard to something like.
Yep. And then Deathless Warriors, they get a 6-up ward. Okay, cool. Yep. Still a death army. Got it. Okay. Cool. And then Nadirite weapons. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a melee weapon by a friendly Ossiarch That's funny. Ostart. That's a funny typo there. Ossiarch. There we go. Bonereapers unit is 6. That attack scores 2 hits on the target instead of 1. Make a wound and save roll for each hit. This ability has no effect on attacks made by mounts unless noted otherwise. And then Relentless Discipline. Oh boy, oh boy. So this is our new version of this. Okay. You get a bunch of extra command points. These are cumulative. You get 1 extra command point if you've got 3 units or more. You get 2 extra command points if there are 5 or more. And you get 3 extra command points if there are 7 or more Ossiarch Bonereaper units on the battlefield. So, Brendan, how many command points do you get if you start starting the game? Okay. And you have 8 units on the battlefield.
So, are you going first or second in the battle round?
Let's say, just for sake of argument, you're going first.
So you'd get your 1 for starting. Your general's alive, so you're at 2. And then you pick up another 6, so you're starting the round at 8.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you. That engineering degree really paying off.
There you go. Very good. I just wanted to make that real and say the number for everybody. Yes, for some reason I noticed my system's dropping some frames here and there, everybody. I don't know why it's happening. The audio is like crystal clear and coming through as near as I can tell, but for some reason it wants to drop frames tonight on the video. And I'm trying to like troubleshoot that on the side while we're talking.
Gotcha.
At any rate, Tyler, what do you think about 8 command points, huh?
Yeah, I mean, like you said at the top, dude, this is the army to do it if you're gonna do it. And I generally like the design of it. You gotta have 7 to get your max. You should be losing units as the game goes on, at least some units, where that number will go down as you get deeper into a game. And yeah, I'm a fan. I mean, it seems a little nuts, like if you just look at it like in a vacuum or something, right? Or like your baseline understanding of this game. But I think it's fine.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, I think it's fine. It's a lot of command points. But your question might rightfully be, but Vince, what are we going to do with all these command points? Well, don't worry, we've got you covered. I was so happy to see this. Okay, yeah. I really was. And that's not me being funny at all, because I really lambasted when we added just a bunch of nonsense. Here, let's try that. Sorry. Okay. When we got a bunch of like nonsense heroic actions and unusual things that in the Gits book that I was like, this should be part of the like OBR better be the command point sort of masters, right? That's what we should be doing here. Using like they should be using command abilities and having command and control in this really unique way. And guess what? Hey, it's what we got. So I was very pleased because we got even the bigger version of this. It does make them very, as we'll see, I mean, they are a super command ability army, but as you mentioned, there are plenty of ways to shut those off in the game. Yep. And that is a bad time for them for sure. So look out for that. Okay. I'm trying to decide if I made it better or worse or had no change. I think I made it better or worse or had no change with the frames, but we'll see. Okay. If you command an Ossiarch Bonereapers army, you can use Ossiarch commands in addition to any other command abilities that you can use. Ossiarch commands are command abilities that either appear on the war scroll of a unit that has the Ossiarch Bonereapers keyword or are included in the table below. In addition, the restriction that you cannot use the same command ability more than once in the same phase does not apply to Ossiarch commands. Designer's note: you can use the same Ossiarch command more than once in the same phase as long as that command is issued by a model that has not already issued a command in that phase and is received by a unit that has not already received a command in that phase. So we can reissue the same commands, but as per usual, you have the same challenge to or the same basic rules in place, right? It's not like one person can just be like bang, 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 and issue 4 different commands in a row, which is going to matter when we get to the leader of this particular faction, as it were, and look at his particular war scroll. Okay, so we've got 6 commands here. You can see them on the screen. I don't need to read them verbatim. Brendan, what do you give me your rundown of these commands? How you using these? What do you like? What don't you like? Talk to me about the Ossiarch commands.
The only one I don't like is unflinching coordination. That shouldn't be a command ability. The pick a hero to fight and then another unit to fight is on a lot of heroes' war scrolls. This is command point inflation, and needs to be treated as such. So all of the rest of them are great, right? You get a retreat and charge, awesome,
amazing.
Yeah, you get +3 to your move characteristic. You can't use both of them, right? Because they're both movement phase ones.
Right.
Or you get reknit constructs. These are all your movement phase ones, and that's just return D3 wounds worth of models or heal D3. Okay, cool, awesome choices in the movement phase, fantastic. Right, Counterstrike is used in the enemy charge phase. It gives you +1 to wound. A lot of your wound profiles on your generic stuff are garbage. So that's important. That's in the charge phase specifically, so that you can beef up your guys in the combat phase. Because when you get to the combat phase, you still have access to all out attack, all out defense, but you also have access to bludgeon, which is improve your rend characteristic, your melee weapons by 1. So here you go. Everybody's rend 2 now. And then you also have a add 1 to ward rolls in the shooting or the combat phase. Cool. All these are awesome. You can put the right units in the right places to have them doing the right thing at the right time. The thing I really miss, was the early edition of Ossiarch Bonereapers, where you could dump all of your Relentless Discipline points into one unit, and you're like, this combat right here is the most important thing in the world, and we're gonna shield wall, and we're gonna be re-rolling wounds, and we're gonna be re-rolling hits, and we're gonna be +1 to save and +1 to hits, and ignoring your rend.
Sounds like such a fun time.
It cost me 8 discipline points to do all of this. So,
sure.
But that's just me nitpicking all sorts of different things. Like this is great. This is fantastic. You have access to all of your regular core ones. As we go through the war scrolls, you'll see the Ossiarch commands that are on war scrolls. Some are okay, some are awesome. But your whole army has access to all of these different choices and all of these different options, and when employed correctly, you're going to be everything your opponent doesn't want you to be. That's going to be great.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
It's good stuff. Just to say, just in case. So the regular command abilities in the game, redeploy, etc. Obviously, they can now use them, but they cannot spam them. Like you cannot issue all-out attack multiple times. That's one distinction, right? With the OBR ones, you can, but you cannot with the regular ones. So just to say that, just in case. Yeah, big fan of all this. Good stuff.
Okay. I by the way, in digging into it, this seems to be a problem with OBS right now, because I'm looking at I actually was like diagnosing my connection, and everything says over here, oh, you have an excellent connection right now. It's very strong. Like all of my speeds are fine, so it's got to be something going on with Streamlabs. Anyways, so sorry everyone. I don't know what to say there, except that's out of my control. Okay. So I want to dive into this one quick, because there's one thing you said that I want to put a finer point on, and that is for impenetrable ranks. Okay? Impenetrable ranks, because you said in the shooting phase, the combat phase. But that's not actually what Impenetrable Ranks does.
Yeah, you have to be the target, and you
Right.
prove. Yeah.
Exactly. The trick there being that you can use this command ability when a friendly OBR unit is picked as the target of an attack. Period.
Yeah.
Meaning you can use this out of phase. Right? So, because one of the good ways that used to be to sort of beat up on OBR was to hit them out of phase. Right? Where they didn't have access to like their tilt shields and stuff like that, right? You could if you had hero phase fighting or other kind of nonsense, you could basically catch them with their pants down, as it were, their bony pants down, right? And that's not the case here. Impenetrable Ranks, which is a very powerful ability. Anybody who's ever played against Nighthaunt and had them discorporate, right, knows how powerful that is. The trick is discorporate, or whatever it's called, their +1 ward save, is limited to the shooting or the combat phase. You can't just do it anytime. So you can still hit Nighthaunt out of sequence, right? So I thought it was interesting that they made the choice here to just be like, nah, dog, anytime, go for it. Like, go nuts.
Right.
It's very potent. It's a very, very, very powerful ability. Now, obviously, it is a trade-off against all-out attack and all-out defense and all the rest of that, because it's a combat phase ability, and if it's being done in that phase, which is the majority of how it's going to get used, right? Like, let's be honest, majority of time it will be shooting or combat, but it does have that versatility, so that's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just a neat little thing there that caught my eye. So, anywho, good on OBR, I guess. You get to cheat in every phase, so congratulations on that. Okay. Let's talk about some command traits, gentlemen. Okay. As per usual, I'm not going through all of these, because it's like I'm not reading this many things. You can all see them on the screen. Y'all can read. I believe in you. Brendan, what's your hot pick? You got one. What's your hot pick?
Diversionary tactics. Subtract 3 from charge rolls for enemy units that attempt to charge within 12 inches of this general.
Bada boom. Is there, like, there's some other choices on this list that I actually think are interesting. Don't get me wrong.
100%. Yes.
Yeah. I think this is actually a pretty good list.
Absolutely.
But, man, that one is strong. Holy crap.
Yeah.
That is a very strong ability. Like, if you've ever played against... Tyler, did you ever play against the old Nurgle subfaction that was out of... What was that, Brendan? Remember the one that came out of, like, the Monstrous Arcanum?
I'll take you one step further. You ever play against the Khorne Demon Prince?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Of course. That one was a straight halving. I was going to use this as, like, that old Nurgle one, whatever it was the one under the big Forge World monster guy. I cannot remember the name of it. Tomarkan's Horde.
Oh,
something
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyways, that army had, like, I think an army-wide ability where it caused, like, -1 or -2 to charge. Something.
Oh,
like
okay.
that.
I know. Yeah, I never played against it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was insane.
Yeah.
Trying to charge that army just because of, like, -1 or -2. Right? It was so hard. This creates such a ridiculous bubble around your general of just not being able to charge. So, yeah, wow. I don't know what to say to that other than, okay, cool. It's very strong.
Yeah, seems good.
Yeah.
Seems good. I'm glad it's not army-wide. At least it's just the bubble around the general, so I guess kill the general.
Sure.
And it goes kind of back to what you were saying, Brendan, right? Like, if you run up against, like, some magic force that has the ability to just kind of be like, boom, 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 okay, that guy's dead now.
Yeah, well, about that.
Yeah, sure. And you're not Null Myriad or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I don't think there will be enough magic to make Null Myriad worth it, the choice. But we'll get there when we get to Subfactions.
Yeah, the
Tyler,
one
what's your
that
pick?
sends out, yeah, ignore negative modifiers to save rolls, Mighty Arcosian, however you say that. Ignore negative modifiers to save rolls for attacks that target this general. So you can really go ham on a Liege Cavalos, get it to a 2+, ignoring rend, and potentially a 3-up ward, even, I noticed, in terms of the various combinations that you could pull off in this Battletome. So that's a really nice pinning piece, anvil type pinning piece that you
Sure.
could do as a annoying distraction. But yeah, it's a good list, like you said, dude. A lot
I
of great
feel we
options.
would be remiss. I'll go ahead and pick Show of Superiority.
Mm.
Do
Yeah.
you like Total Eclipse? I know I don't. Well, how about constantly on Total Eclipse, but it only works on a 5-up. So it's kind of this weird better than, worse than Total Eclipse. And it's also funny because you can't plan on it. You can still try and then hope they don't get it. But it is, again, just table wide. If your general's on the battlefield, you have like a 33% Total Eclipse on all the time.
Yeah.
Uh,
We had a Battletome recently that had a subfaction that did this, and it's escaping me what it was. Too many Battletomes recently, but basically a subfaction rule did this.
yeah, it wasn't this strong. It wasn't table wide
okay.
all the time if this character exists. But yes, there was.
Got
So I mean, yeah, those are the three that jump out at me, right? So, yep.
Well, and like that's bonkers because there's like 2 other on here that are worthwhile.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Like Dark Acolyte is very strong and Aura of Sterility is very strong. I just don't think Crafted from Beastbone is actually the I think that's the only one that's a miss because I've played with those kind of effects before. Like there's a model that has that by default in Slanesh, and let me tell you what, it's really terrible. Also, your general in a lot of cases who could take this isn't going to necessarily be fighting in every turn of the game, so he's not going to kick it on fast enough to where it's actually doing anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, Dark Acolyte, whenever you can turn spells into non-interactive things, it's quite powerful. And boy, oh boy, is that going to be really relevant, Brendan, when we get to the endless spells.
Yep.
Kicking out 1 or 2 of those endless spells in a cannot be unbound fashion. They can be impactful real fast. Real fast. So yeah, Dark Acolyte and then Aura of Sterility, like again against shooting armies, that's obviously incredibly huge penalties in a big giant bubble. So -1 hit and wound. And wound being the really, really important stuff going on there. I mean, like that just neuters everybody who doesn't rely on mortal wounds to do their damage. That's the only problem with Aura of Sterility, is a lot of people in the game still rely on like mortals to do their damage and shooting. So. Okay, cool. Artefacts split into 2 tables: OBR heroes and Mortisan heroes. But we have 6 total. Or sorry, 7 total. I apologize. There are 4 in the Mortisan heroes section. 8 total. I can't read my own freaking thing. I'm sorry. There's 8. I know there's 8. I know how to read and count. Forgive. I don't have an engineering degree. Sorry, I have a philosophy degree. So counting to 8 is really hard for me. Brendan could do it earlier very easily. For me, it's tough. There's 8 artifacts. Brendan, hit me. What's your pick? You can pick 1 from each here on this one if you like. Since we got 2 lists.
Man, one. So from your general heroes, I think the general heroes, they're all good. Lotus Saturation is pretty scary, especially if you need that general to be very, very alive.
Yep.
Adding 1 to your ward rolls is never bad.
Right.
And then off of your generic Mortisan heroes, like the best artifact is the Lumen Scythe, but it's got to go on the Soul Reaper, so hard skip.
Sure.
I'd probably say my favorite out of this one's the Artisan's Key. The Bone Shaper is going to be one of those heroes that you're going to find yourself taking almost always, almost no matter what. A 3-up to be able to heal twice is a real, insult to injury situation to some opponents.
2 Stalkers back, 2 Immortal Scar back. Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
It's
Gotta
not
say
bad.
though, that Gothazar cartouche. Loss factor only, add 1 wound rolls to attacks made with melee weapons by friendly OBR units wholly within 9. Sounds good to me. pretty great. It's a nice bubble. Get you on 2s and 2s on a lot of stuff on your elite things, or 2s and 3s. You got Katakros with his big old bubble from a certain command ability coming up. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I really like the Alice Vector. Two spells, fairly cheap. Yeah.
Okay.
Ossiarch's 1 cast.
Is he 1 cast?
Mhm.
Thought he was 2 cast. All right.
Soul
Oh,
Mason's
what am I
2
thinking?
caster.
I'm thinking of Soul Mason. That's it.
Yep.
That's it. All right.
Who used
Yep.
to be the delivery system for the Gothazard cartouche.
Oh, interesting. That's right. Yeah. Alice Vector 120, 140. Anyway, we'll
120.
come to it.
Yep.
120. Yeah.
Yeah, the other one I think worth mentioning here is the Helm of Tyranny. It's a very small range effect, but it's obviously a very powerful effect. Anytime in the game you are shutting off Inspiring Presence, and the kicker of making extra models flee is certainly not to be understated, especially if you get into elite models that people are relying on Inspiring Presence to keep around. And if even one flees, suddenly D3 more of those elite models flee. Those effects have always had really outsized impacts on things like Blight Kings or something like that, right? Like, okay, well, you're shut off, one guy runs, suddenly 3 guys run. It's like, whoa, that unit just suddenly explodes, right? Like, it's a massive, massive swing.
We got a certain unique hero with -2 bravery we'll get into later.
Sure.
That pairs nicely with this. So yeah. That's a good shout.
Yep. Fragam, my answer would be I don't know, and it probably requires an FAQ. If you want my read off the top of it, he's asking what happens if I have 1 command point left and try to issue a command and they roll the 5 up. Like, that fails, but does that unit count as issuing a command then? Do you lose the command point? Like, what are the implications of that, right, is the question. And my answer is I don't know, because it's not in the text. So probably an FAQ question. Clearly you fail to issue that command specifically, but I don't know what then happens. Chances are that counts. They'll probably answer it with you count as having issued, but you don't blow the command point or something like that. Just so you can't then turn and try it again, right, on a different unit. Because otherwise you could just keep doing it until you got through, which wouldn't make any sense. Okay. Cool. Spells.
This lore is awesome. Every single one of these is good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, you want to take us through kind of how you're thinking about the spells here, Brendan? Hit me with some spell stuff.
So one of the really great things is for 160 points, you can take a unnamed hero who knows the entire lore, is a 2 cast 2 unbind, and then can also potentially get a 3rd cast on a 2-up.
Yeah.
So that feels close to automatic.
Yeah.
Arcan is 370, is a 3 caster and knows the full lore. Right? You have an array of spells. You have something that takes your exploding weapons to a 5-up. Awesome. You have the Protector Wizard spell of Protection and a Gash, which was reworded to be less insane. Awesome. 4-up against Mortal Wounds. Awesome. And not just for like 2 specific units. It's the whole army now has access to that spell, so that was awesome. Drain Vitality somehow got better. -1 to hit and -1 to save for an enemy unit.
Yeah, really
cool.
Good.
And hold on. And at an 18-inch range, which is what sets it apart. Like, every other time you see this spell, because we've seen...
It's like 12.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's lots of versions of this spell out there, but they're all 12 inches. These guys just get they're just dunking on everybody with the 18-inch range. So, I'm sorry, just go ahead. That is the part that jumped out at me so strong. That 18-inch range.
And a 6 to cast that thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Mortal Contract, so a game-long potential free D3 Mortal Wounds, throughout the whole game. And then the last spell in here, Soul Release, is one of the most unusual spells I've ever seen. Cast on a 5, enemy reserve and enemy summoned units cannot be set up within 12 inches of the caster. We've never seen something like that.
Right.
Like, you can use that to nullify a part of the board, basically preventing your opponent from bringing reserves in or bring them down to try and, like this is anti Beast of Chaos tech. This is anti Gravesite tech. Like you can't do anything about this. Like it's just here I am. Particularly with a caster like Nagash, where you can just, boom, I'm here, and you can't bring anything down near me to tie me up that I don't want to be tied up with.
Yep.
I don't know, like that. All
Sweet.
like, yeah, super cool lore.
Mm.
Super cool lore.
It's such a fascinating spell, and I love that. By the way, it's funny to me that we've taken this long to start playing in this space, because as soon as you read this, didn't this feel like something that should have existed years ago? Right.
I had to look up to be like, is there an artifact that does this? Is there a command trait that does something similar? Like even just 10 inches, right? Bring them outside your normal 9 or whatever.
Sure.
Nope.
It should be noted that it doesn't stop like teleporting units or units that are resetting up in some way, like that are, for example, jumping through a gnaw hole that you're painting right now, because they're neither reserve units nor summoned units, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But so like you have to be aware of stuff like that depending on what the enemy has, available to them. But I agree with you. It's so strong anti-beast tech or something like that. Like that type of army that relies on those ambush mechanics, bubbling out of multiple of your extremely strong casters with extremely big bases who don't want to be drop and popped. Like, what a ridiculously strong ability to just like exert board presence, right?
Yeah.
And also, by the way, actually feels really good in this army, because they do feel like they should be sort of like masters of the board space, as it were, if that makes sense. So I'm saying like they are this like tactical master of the battlefield. They've outmaneuvered you already before you've even started, right? And this is a really interesting representation of that concept, kind of in mechanical form. So I really like it. This just really hummed for me. Like Soul Release, I just read it and I was like, I can't believe somebody didn't write this a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen more examples of that coming up in some of these recent battle tomes, including Seraphon today. There's a lot of cool creativity. But anyway, that's great.
Can't have our one day in the sun, can we?
Nope.
All right. I can't wait for the anti tech, where it's like this unit may always ambush no matter what and cannot be stopped by anything.
I like that. As far as I can tell, I mean, let me know if you guys can correct me. It did not seem like there are many ways to get bonuses to cast in this battle tome, other than obviously Arcan. And we mentioned, I think, an artifact or command trait that you can.
That allows it force that you can force through to make it not unbindable. It's
unbindable, right?
Bindable. I don't know.
But yeah, there's not like, we're just giving out +1 to cast, +2 to cast, etc. So I like that. It's a nice constraint, right? But it's an amazing spell lore. The Mortal Contract reminds me of Below spell, which is incredibly powerful.
Yep.
I mean So amazing.
All right. Okay, cool.
Warscroll time. Oh no, subfaction time.
Subfaction time. Subfaction time. Yes, exactly. It is subfaction time. Okay. So just making a note for a timestamp here. Okay, cool. Subfactions. These I feel like we can just kind of talk through all of them. First, a quick note.
Yeah.
No battle line optional living in the subfactions. Error 404, not found. All of the optional battle line is happening through your general. Which at first, as I thought about that, so when I first picked up this book and read it, I was like, that's kind of weird, right? It feels like that should be, I don't know, a thing, I guess. But then as I thought about it more, I was like, oh wait, no, right. This is an army all about its leaders, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that was their intentional thought, if like somewhere in the whiteboarding section when they were kind of talking through these abilities, they actually ever critically thought through, like, we're not going to do any sub-faction battle line because this is a command and control top-down army that's like all about its leaders and command abilities and this very strict hierarchical leadership structure that it operates under. Hence, that's what would enable alternative battle line, right? I don't know if they thought that. And yeah, I know they've played other armies in the same vein. But at the same time, they also haven't recently. Like there are others recently, because Khorne isn't exactly the same way, Gareth. The Skullfiend tribe enables Skullcracker takers, the skull swingy
Crushers.
guys.
Skull
No.
the Skull Reapers. Skull Reapers.
There you go. Yes, enables them.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like that. So there is like, but yes, there has been a couple books recently where they did play around with that. But this felt more intentional. Anyways, okay, cool. Mortis Praetorians, our sort of main faction here, the banner faction. Once returned during the enemy charge phase, after an enemy unit finishes a charge move, you can pick one friendly Mortis Praetorians unit within 12 inches of that enemy unit and more than 3 inches from all enemy units. That unit can attempt a charge. All right, well, we're starting strong.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. I believe Nurgle pays like 700 points for this ability on an otherwise underwhelming frame.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, like, I'm not crazy, right? That's actually crazy strong.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the main thing in the game that we've had that I can think of is Iron Suns and Iron Jaws, which of course has not seen a lot of play because of Bloodtooths in the pig spam era that we've been living in for some time. But Iron Suns was quite good. I think
because
this
of one bad FAQ, and now we're cursed for a year and a half. But anyways, continue.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like this army will be able to take even more advantage of this rule with Stalkers or Mortis Guard or Punchy Heroes or whatever it might be. Yeah, it's great. Like, yeah, very tactical. Quite fun. I played a little bit of Iron Suns. It's very fun to play around with that.
Yeah. Okay, good. Petrifex Elite. I had to read this one like 3 times to figure out exactly what it was doing. Okay. And I'm still not sure I'm not confused.
Right.
Subtract 1 from the damage inflicted to a minimum of 1 by each successful attack that targets a friendly Petrifex Elite Hekatos. Like, okay. Or Petrifex Elite Gothazar Harvester unit. Okay. That's fine. It's very specific. I had to go read and I was like, got it. It's a -1 damage thing. And I was like, wait a minute. What's a Hekatos unit? Because I had never, like... Or what's a Hekatos, right? Like, I had to go refresh myself on how this is working.
Yeah, so this is Stalkers and Mortis Guard and Morghast, or your -1 damage, and then obviously Harvesters.
Yep. So, okay.
It's good.
This is your elite build. I guess they looked at it and said, well, it has elite in the name. So I guess it's the elite it's the elite army. Real big brain play there.
Brendan, you just said Stalkers and a Mortis Guard.
Mm-hmm.
They have Morghast. And Morghast.
Yeah, so
they have Hekatos? I thought they...
No, they have the Hekatos keyword.
They have the Hekatos keyword.
The Hekatos keyword. Okay, I'm thinking of the champion.
The confusing part, exactly, yeah.
Which is why I had to read
this
is
a Hekatos.
Yes.
Okay.
But does not have the keyword.
Correct.
Oh, wow.
The units that do not have Hekatos champions are keyworded Hekatos and are therefore the units that are eligible.
Okay, I'm very glad we talked about this because, yeah, I was stuck in Mortek Guardland.
Yeah, hence my original confusion. There you go. You see now what hooked me.
Yeah.
Because when I first read this, I was like, wait, how do I target just the champion in a guard unit? And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. So I was like,
funny.
that's got to be. I'm reading this wrong. So I was like, okay, that's a keyword. Let me go read here. Dug through the rest, and then I was like, oh, I get it. Yeah, okay, the elite dudes have this keyword. All right. So, but it did take me a hot minute to cotton to that as well. Like, you're not alone. Don't feel bad. Also very, very, very strong, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you have an interest in, if you have some of these elite units, I mean, I think we just spent a long time learning how potent Neg 1 damage is. It's super strong.
Yeah. How are we turning on? Are we turning on Battle Line Stalkers and Mortis Guard through some hero?
There is a way to turn on Stalkers.
Mortisans. Yep. So those are your foot wizards.
Okay. Interesting.
So yes, you can have an entire army operating like Seraphon, old school Seraphon, as it were. However that works. Middle school Seraphon, I don't know. Previous to FAQ Seraphon, yes, you can effectively get to that place. Your heroes wouldn't get it, but you could build an entire army of the troops that have it, yes. Okay.
Yeah, pretty good.
Staliarch Lords reroll charge rolls for mounted units. Okay. Cool.
The worst one.
Yeah.
I mean, like, cool. Like, rerolling charges is good, but
need more war scroll options to make that interesting.
Right, if we had added like the light cav and some chariot things and I'd be like, oh, all right, okay, this could be interesting here. We can build a big force, and they're all rerolling, but no. Nope. Ivory Host. Add 1 to the number of hits scored by the Naderite weapons battle trait by friendly Ivory Host units if the unmodified hit roll was 6 and any wounds or mortal wounds were allocated to that unit earlier in the turn. This is a very interesting one because this army generally doesn't mind taking the hit first, like just conceptually, as we saw in some of the other abilities. OBR doesn't mind being like the swing back army. And if you ever played Slanesh with under like the old tome where you had the trip hits on Nat 6s, because if you had a unit of 20 or more, it was like a 6 to hit was double hits, but if you had 20 or more models in the unit, you go to trip hits, which is effectively what this amounts to, right? Because you go to 3 hits out of every 6. It was absurdly strong. It doesn't seem like much, but it is wild how many hits that adds. Okay. Like you have to really actually play through it to feel it. But like in simplest effect, imagine Tyler, if you will. Okay. Like let's do the math here for everybody because I want to make this real. Let's imagine we're making 20. Let's make the math easy-ish here. Okay. Let's say you're making 21 attacks and you're hitting on 3s. Like you got a standard unit making 2 attacks with a champion. Okay. Cool. So you got 21 attacks hitting on 3s. Mathematically, 14 of those will hit. Right? Okay? Okay. That's the normal number. Now, 3 or 4 of those, let's just call it 4, are going to be 6s. Okay?
Yeah.
You just added 8 attacks back into the hits. So meaning out of your 21 attacks, you hit 22 times.
I like that math.
Right? That's what that does to the math.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the designer note that's I appreciate that they put in there. That's like, no silly. This still only works on 6. That's why we said 6. Like all the empower things that empower this. Like it's the same with the poison and the cruel boys and everything else. It's like, no, it doesn't go to 5. Stop it. Stop trying to be a cheater. You know what it is. You know what we said. Read the words.
Is the only way, do you guys know offhand, that we're getting 5s exploding the Empower Naderite weapon spell? Is there any other way?
That's the only way.
Right.
Okay. All right. That's pretty tasty though. That's on a 5, 24-inch range. Pick 1 unit. Okay.
If we go back to the same example I just had, Tyler. Okay. Let's combine those 2 things.
Sure.
All right. So let's say you get 3 5s. Let's just imagine. We'll go for the low end on that one. you've now, out of your 21 attacks, generated 25 hits.
5. Tasty.
Okay. So when you hit more than you attack, it's pretty good. Turns out. It's pretty good. So
Yeah.
that's a quick note for you there.
Pretty good math. Yeah, with stalkers or guards.
Yeah.
I like it.
So fun stuff.
Yeah.
Null Myriad. You can roll a dice each time a friendly Null Myriad unit wholly within 9 inches of any friendly Null Myriad Mortisans or a friendly Archon is affected by a spell cast by an enemy unit or the abilities of an endless spell summoned by an enemy unit on a 2+. Ignore the effect of that spell, the effects that endless spell's abilities. So you just get to be immune to magic. Got it.
Yep.
Just like be relatively near your heroes. And you're immune to magic. Okay. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Old Dave Griffin might have to ban OBR from 2-list format Nashcon tournaments.
Yeah, in a
with-
2-list
with-
format. If your off-list isn't Null Myriad, I don't know what you're doing with your life.
That's kind
Like,
of
of
nonsense.
course that's your second list. Of course it is.
Ugh.
This Techlist list.
Yeah.
I wonder what I'll play.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like so ungodly strong against a particular slice of armies. I honestly think I kind of hate it. And what I mean by that is like I like rock paper scissors design, like soft rock paper scissors, right? This is like rock beats scissors. Like this is true rock paper scissors design. Like if you show up with magic scissors, I am going to crush you. Get out of here. Okay? You're done. You're done. You're done. Like if you're some Zinchi
with your
magic
Gravesand
army.
rock.
Yeah, you're done. And that might be too strong, is my honest opinion. Like, I'm trying to imagine the person who just plays Null Myriad all the time because, like, that person exists. They will exist. They do exist. And, like, then somebody at the table who's looking to play a game rocks up against them with, like, a Zinch army and is just like, hey, let's have a fun game. Well, one of us is going to have fun. I'm certainly not you.
Yeah.
Because my one ability here shuts off all of your, like, the entire point of your army. I don't love that, is my honest answer. Sure. I get
Right there with
Look,
you.
I'm no huge fan of Zinch or Teclis either. I kind of hate both of them, as well as Seraphon. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of magic-heavy armies either.
What do you want? What do you want, Vince? You gotta pick.
Right. So I find myself at a crossroads, Brendan. That's what I'm saying. I'm torn internally because at one point I kind of hate those things, those armies. On the flip side,
what do you hate more? You gotta pick. It's the internet.
Yeah, indeed. On the flip side, Gareth is exactly right. Like most magic in the game is buffing magic, and so the Null Myriad guy in a lot of the matches is just taking a subfaction ability that's ipsum lorem text.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
So that's my issue. It's like this guy at the same game. He just smashes the Zinch player. Just this poor Zinch player doesn't get a single spell, off for any value. No mortal wounds are done. No money changes hands, right? And so he's like feeling good about his life. He brings his rock to game 2, and then the corn player rocks up, and he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, hello, paper."
I also don't like magic.
Yeah. But I don't have to spend anything to do that. That's just how I work all the time. So who's made the better choice here? So, that's kind of the thing. Anyways, is what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I would have rather seen a design here that was more screwing with all types of magic being cast. Right? In some kind of way. And giving them a weaker spell ignore. Right? Like some kind of disruption to enemy unbinding and casting. So that way there's still value to you. Right? For like, if you go up against Khorne, then there would still be value delivered. Because you would be disrupting their ability to unbind your spells as well. Right? And then as well as like some kind of weaker spell ignore. That to me would have been better designed to like flatten out the experience across the armies you face. So that's my thought.
Yeah, makes sense.
Finally, crematorians. Each time a friendly crematorian's model is slain, before removing that model from play, you can pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of it and roll a number of dice equal to the wounds characteristic of that model. For each 5-up, that enemy suffers 1 mortal wound. Everybody's just got to get better than the Stormcast, right? That's what we got to get. Everybody now gets a better version of the Stormcast rule. That's the important part. But
it's going to come around. It's going to come around for Stormcast, and it's going to be like a 4-up, and we're going to go, wow.
Exactly.
Yeah. This power creep is nuts.
Yeah, it'll be like every time the Stormcast goes, roll a 2-up. They do D3 more per wound, D3 mortal wounds for every 2-up you do. Sure. Okay.
So having played Stormcast, forever, when I saw this, my eyes certainly lit up. I got excited, but I don't actually know how powerful this is compared to these other things. Like, I don't know, Melnick, what do you think about crematorians? Do you get excited about this compared to? Yeah. Okay. I mean, it seems pretty good to me.
So there's like some weird like opposing mechanics here, where you have this built-in kind of like survivable army, but like you are also incentivized to die. So in the book you're going to talk about next week, well, you won't, Tyler. It'll be Tom. There's a unit of zombies that when they die, they do this exact same thing. Yeah. But also for 115 points for 20 of these dice rolls, and it's way better and way more efficient. Right? You pair things with harvesters, and you keep that engine going. I like it. I like the way that they redid it, where it's actually just against the wounds characteristic instead of it being like, oh, and if you're big, you do it on a 3-up, and it's D3 mortal wounds. Like, yeah. Well, nah, man, let me roll my fistful of dice and let me live or die by these 5s.
All right. Remind me a little bit of old school Daughters of Cain with the way Martyr Sacrifice. That's what it was.
Yeah, sure.
Those big bricks of 30 witches doing mortal wounds back to you on 5s.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for my money, I think we'll see a lot of Mortis Praetorians, a lot of Petrifex, and honestly, I think we'll see some Ivory Host. I think some people are going to play around with that and really actually see that is a very powerful ability, just because of how it's very easy to turn on. Like it's especially since, by the way, it's not earlier in the phase for Ivory Host; it's earlier in the turn.
Look out, Burning Head.
Yeah, which is an important note, right? So, like, if you get shot, if you get spelled, like, those things will still turn on this ability. So, like, it is... Now, obviously, that's... You might say, well, your enemy just won't shoot you. And it's like, okay, sure. Great, then I'm already winning. Like, fantastic. Seems like a good trade to me. So I think that Ivory Host comes out really well here, which is great, because it was kind of... super trash in the last version. So
what it used to do. What was it?
+1 to hit.
Oh god. Okay.
Yeah.
You can all out attack.
Well, and you were also living on a mountain of +1 to hit. Like things in the army.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was bad. All right. Now let's do some Warscrolls.
Yay.
Did we skip something? Nope, sure didn't.
Take some ponies in your list to get a battle tactic.
There you go. And we covered that. All right, Nagash. He's 965 points. I stopped reading. Anybody else? Brendan, what does this guy do? I did not read this dude's rules, and I refuse to do so.
Fair enough, Vince. So he still feels very similar in that you're oftentimes going to be getting your 8 spell attempts. The big change is that he can unbind an unlimited number of spells. He's base +3 to cast, unbind, and dispel, so that's good. It's an unlimited number of units that are wholly within range of Invocation of Nagash to get 3 wounds worth of models back for summonable Mordant or Bonereaper units. So that's not bad. He hands out a friendly death wholly within 12 inches 5-up ward aura, and he's a moving Loon Shrine. In your hero phase, you can bring back summonable Mordant or Ossiarch Bonereaper, destroyed unit of 3 wounds characteristic of 3 or less, and a 3-up you get a unit of a half size back. It just can't move in the following movement phase. It's cool.
Yeah.
Spells are the same. All that works the same. He's got an alright combat profile. It's cool. He's less bad.
Soul Stealer, did that get a little bit better? I feel like it's better than I remember it because he can now do potentially D6 mortal wounds instead of D3. Was it like that previously?
Yeah, so there was always a mechanism to get it up to D6.
Okay, interesting.
So it leads me to the big question. Is he worth 965 points? That is so many points.
Most of the time, the answer is no.
Okay.
I think he's incredible in a Night Haunt army. The Night Haunt lore spell is bonkers. And having a caster that's this good and this reliable that knows all of them is nuts.
They also have cheaper units.
Correct. I think there's a Soulblight list that works particularly well with him. Boy, I don't know about Bonereapers though. Don't know about that. And Flesh Eater Courts, the wounds characteristic of being 3 or less is just spitting in their eye because the units that you want to benefit from this are 4 wounds.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, for most of Nagash's life, he could stand to lose a couple, maybe 100 points.
Sure.
But you have to pay for past sins in this game, and Nagash in 2018 was just dumb.
I understand. Slaanesh is still in timeout. I get it. It happens.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the actual nominal head of this faction. A scroll I did read because I actually like this dude a lot, and I like the changes to him.
Yeah.
And that's Katakros, Mortarch of the Necropolis, 20 wounds, big 3-up save. He's a War Master. He's got all his little peeps with him still on his mobile diorama that he's walking around on. But we have some fun changes here. Specifically and importantly, that he doesn't lose his peeps. His peeps are there, and they do things. And that's how that works. And that's cool. His little scroll bearer and his little spy master and so on. I also appreciate he still has the sort of reverse profile thing where his melee actually gets better as he gets more wounded. He doesn't get up to you notice the stars are in the attacks profile all the way down in the column because his retinue people start out with a bunch of attacks and then they go down and then he goes from 1 up to 4. But I do appreciate the do nothing, this one's mine, wherein, by the way, his people don't listen. They still make 7 attacks. But it's funny to me. It would have been funnier if the retinue blades is 0 and Nakat and Shield and Mortis both become 4 or 5 even or something like that. That would have been fun, right? But that's cool either way.
A special super profile.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, right? For him fighting, because that's clearly his thing. He likes to fight enemy heroes, and I get that. And so you use the bottom row of his profile if he's within 3 inches of any heroes, which is cool.
Yeah, great roll.
So he has, again, we saw it already on Nagash, but it's worth sort of talking through the rule in a little more detail here, because this is kind of the way you're going to see it templated throughout the rest of this army and in his Mortarch of the Necropolis ability. Lots of heroes have some variation of this thing that we're going to see here. So in your hero phase, you can pick up to 3 different Ossiarch Bonereapers units wholly within 24 of him. If that unit is not Immortus Guard or Stalkers, you can either heal up to 3 wounds allocated to that unit, or if no wounds have been allocated, you can return a number of slain models with a combined wound characteristic of 3 or less. If they are an Immortus Guard or Stalkers unit, you can either heal up to 3 wounds, or if no wounds have been allocated, you roll a die, and on a 3-up, you put 1 guy back. And you're going to see basically a variation on that same thing happen multiple times as we get into the rest of the heroes.
Yeah, the variation is the number of different units and the range that it triggers on.
Right. And then he has his 2 command abilities. Now, they're both hero phase command abilities, so he cannot issue both of them. Despite having 1,000,000 command points, remember, they still have the limitation on can't multi-issue. And he doesn't break that.
And he can issue anywhere on the table once per turn.
Yep.
For free.
For free.
Yeah.
So he brings another 10 free command points to you, just in case you didn't have enough yet. But my problem with these two, and we talked about this a little off air before the show, and so I mean, I completely agree with the point that you made, Brendan, originally. So I don't want to steal your thunder. But to me, like, Supreme Lord of the Bonereaper Legions is so much stronger than Endless Duty, unless there is some very specific thing that I'm trying to do at that moment. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, I don't know. Maybe it's okay to have one be like, this is the one I use 90% of the time, and this is the one I use 10% of the time. I don't know if that's good design or bad design is my honest answer, but I think that's the case. Like, Supreme Lord is +1 to hit and +1 to save for a massive bubble around this diorama base, and Endless Duty is +1 attack duty for one unit, which is good, strong buff, but okay. Right? I mean,
yeah. The Supreme Lord of the Bonereaper Legions no longer being keyworded locked to getting both of the buffs is huge. You as an opponent can shut it down by getting to within 3 inches of it, during their hero phase, and then he can't issue the Supreme Lord of the Bonereaper Legions, which feels like a really weird restriction.
Sure.
Whatever. But it makes Katakros useful and valuable in all subfactions, which is nice.
Sure. Yes, he himself is Mortis Praetorians, worth mentioning, but of course this ability isn't tidally locked to them anymore. And yes, I didn't mention the 3-inch shut off, and I should have. But like, it feels to me like most of the time you're going to keep this guy out of combat if you don't want him in combat. Like, the nature of how this army plays is still pretty mobily, castle-y, and you generally should be able to stop them from getting into him if you don't want them into him. Especially because of the aforementioned spell we talked about that like shuts off ambushing and things like that within a range. So, it becomes even harder to get at the back line and get at him. But yes, it does shut off in that case. So sure. Then in that case, he falls back to the +1 attack thing. But okay. But I think he's at 440 points. Is this guy worth it for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. I think this dude's solid.
Yeah, he's going to be in a lot of lists, I feel. A lot of lists.
All right, I want to go straight to the next War Scroll, because then we're going to have a discussion like that. Because okay, next War Scroll is Archon the Black, and he's Archon the Black. He's a trip cast wizard, trip cast, trip unbind, right, with a +2 to cast base. Who's a War Master, who can fly, who's got a mount, who's got his blah 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 blah, right? He adds 6 inches to the range of spells cast by friendly death wizards while they're wholly within 18. No, it would not increase the range of the bubble of the teleport, because that is not a range that a spell is cast. It is an effect around the caster. So no, those two things. No, he doesn't push the bubble of no reserve to 18 inches or anything like that.
You know that the FAQ is going to land 100% opposite to that now.
Solar relays, 6 enemy reserve units.
Because if soul release comes down to enemy units outside of 18 inches, like, put Arcane in your list. That's where the list starts, and you go from there.
Yeah, I mean, they've clarified range before and said that, like, this is what range means, and we know it's not range.
That means nothing. It means absolutely nothing.
Sure. Look, you're absolutely right that any answer is always possible in an FAQ, but I believe they'll answer it correctly.
I'm proud. I'm glad you think so.
Sure. So he also self-heals, which is really nice. He has his Mortarch of the Sacrament to blah 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 heal units like we talked about already, and he's got Curse of Years. And this dude's at 370. Now, obviously, he doesn't have the melee power, not even close. Not even close. I mean, he has a goofball ancient 5,000-year-old wizard, right? Like, That's what he
Did they
is.
did they tone him down, Melnick? I remember him being a little beefier in combat.
He was a little punchier, but not by
Okay.
much.
Okay.
Like mildly punchier.
Yeah. I know his
Like-
wounds got increased, I think from 11 to 14 now.
Yep,
Something
and
like
he's
that.
a 3-up save now,
Good now.
so
Yeah.
But like
survivable.
here's why I'm saying all this. Here's why I wanted to jump to this guy's scroll so quickly.
Mm.
My honest answer is I've never thought a list that had both Archon and Katakros was like a good place to start. It's just like too big of a point investment into
Two big hats, man. Two big hats.
Yeah, just get all the big hats. So I've just never thought that was like a good way to start the list. You're just investing too much and you're losing too many bodies in an already elite army. Okay.
I don't know, man. I think it works.
Okay. Interesting.
You basically build a discount Nagash in doing so.
Yeah, sure. I don't disagree. It's a 200 point discounted sort of pseudo Nagash. Now, but for me, I'm taking Archon every time. Like, I really like Katakros.
Oh wow.
But I really, really like Archon. Like, I think what this guy does in the Force, in both his innate mobility, that dude has a base 16-inch move, homie.
Yeah.
Like, his little Razarak or whatever his name is, man, that dude is moving. He's got some speed on him, right?
Speedy lad.
Yeah, like that's a really high mobility unit with a really good bonus to cast. And we talked about how good the spell lore is, and by the way, it is. He knows all the spells, fires off 3 of them every round. By the way, when we get to the end of the spells, they're also super good. Okay. So, like, and this dude's just trip popping off every time with basically +2. And if he does get wounded, as long as he can go hunt some chaff, he can heal himself back up. Right? So, like, I really like this guy. Like, this guy feels really, really good. I don't know, just like a versatile, valuable piece in your overall force. That's my take on him. I don't know.
Totally agree. I'm really looking forward to getting some practice games in with Arcan. I love Katakros. He's my favorite model in the game. I love his War Scroll. I love the model. I love everything that it represents. I love the army. And oftentimes in those games, I'm just going like, man, I wish I just had a slightly better caster that I had access to.
Right. That's what's such cool design is that trade-off.
Oh, look, there is one.
Yeah, but I love the trade-off with these two heroes, embodied by these two heroes, because you're not getting the bonuses. Yeah, sure. You're not getting those bonuses elsewhere. I'm just ignoring Nagash, obviously. But yeah, it's really cool design.
Yeah, so I mean, Brendan's coming down on both. Okay, I'm coming down on Arcan. Tyler, where are you coming down?
I mean, reading the book, like, it was just hard to ignore Katakros. Just thinking, like, you just lean into Katakros. You start there. 440. He's the most incredible War Scroll force that he doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't do anything in combat. He's phenomenal. Like, I love the design of this guy. I get, Melnick, why you love this guy so much. But yeah, no, you're selling me, man, on Arcan with the value of these spells and the 6-inch extra range and the +2 to cast, with even a lot of wounds taken. He's still rocking the +2 cast and bind, etc. Yeah, pretty compelling case. But probably Katakros. I mean, the safe stacking is unreal. Plus the hits, you can have a lot of your army twos and twos a lot of the time. Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, to me, this is one of the great, like, this is a strength in the book in my mind.
Yeah.
The fact that all three of us read these 2 scrolls, liked both of them, and came down to 3 different ways we would use these 2 scrolls actually is like a tremendous strength to me. I was very happy to see how both these guys work. And as I said off the air beforehand, I was really glad he kept his +2 to cast. They've been cutting a lot of bonuses to cast, and if they had done that here, even if they had knocked him down to like +1 or something, right, I wouldn't feel the same way, right? Like they kept them interestingly balanced against each other. So
I think one of even the bigger strengths of this is that neither of these Warscrolls have to be automatic includes for your list to look good and do what it's supposed to. They help.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
like you are under no obligation to get the mileage out of your army, and you are handcuffed to taking the named characters.
Yep.
So we can wait on this. We're getting into spoilers later, but all right, Malik, if you're taking Arcana and Katakros, are you taking any other leaders, any other heroes? Just those two?
No.
Okay,
Just
all right, I figured.
You don't have the points.
Exactly. All right, just running around by.
Maybe like if you end up with like some weird points, you end up with like a Bone Shaper or something at
like
120. But like
Alley Champ,
the next thing that you're doing is units. Yeah,
a lot of the lists that I was building, it was 800 or more in the heroes, which is interesting because I was starting with Katakros, and which I really love that constraint with the list building because anyway.
The next thing you're doing when you take both of them is building your DeLorean so you can time travel to July in the new GHB when you won't be hamstrung for not having Littlefoot heroes anymore.
Right.
Okay. All right, let's keep going. Arch Cavalos Xantos, your named horsey guy. He's 200 points. Okay.
This dude's awesome.
Finally not useless.
He's so
finally
cool.
Not useless.
Yeah.
Okay. This guy did not grab me. Sell me on this guy.
Oh man, let me take this one. All right,
okay.
He's issuing. I'm taking over. He's issuing a clear. He's issuing. He's got the freaking Bastion Carthlos. Now it's not board wide. That's fair, but it's still really good. Adding 1 the damage, 5 attacks, 3 threes, -2, 3 damage. You're gonna have ways you're gonna buff the hit roll probably. If you're taking him, you're probably gonna take Katakros. Still the breath. I remember that's pretty good. Add 1 to wound rolls. Wholly within 12 in next year phase. That's all.
That's the best part, Tyler.
Wholly within 12. That's a phenomenal command ability.
They screwed up the wording. In the combat phase, you issue it, and it lasts until your next hero phase.
That's the problem.
You can stack this if you needed to.
We're right back into Graveguard original SBG. Yes, but
they never fixed it. Here we go.
That will get FAQ'd out. Come on.
And you're gonna get 18 inches on the soul release. It's gonna be great. But it's a bubble for the one of the 2 subfactions that you're gonna lean into.
Yeah.
Where you can improve the weakness of your army. He's probably too expensive at 200. Because your unnamed is 170.
Sure.
That's probably fair.
But you're not. I don't think you're far off.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Maybe a little high.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I get it. All that is a good example, and like, I just simply don't believe this silly combat phase wound stacking thing will survive. So, like, I read him as he has a command ability for +1 to wound.
Yeah.
And look, that's good. Okay, like no doubt that's good. But I don't love him being more. Maybe it's because even though that Morris Praetorian ability, countercharge ability is really strong, it's not the subfaction I leaned to when I read the book. Okay. Mm-hmm. And him being tidally locked, obviously, because he is a Morris Praetorian named guy. Like, I get it. I'm not angry that he's like narratively what he is, right? It just didn't land with me the same because I'm not running a Mortis Praetorian's army, so I'm like, okay, well, this guy isn't working for me, right? And so I think that's probably the beginning and end of it right there.
Yeah, and if it's Leech Cavalos versus this guy, then generally speaking, Leech Cavalos is going to win out a lot of the times. So I get that. I'm just excited that this guy is interesting now because he sure
I
as hell
agree.
wasn't.
This is definitely an upgrade. We're in a better place than we were, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So
if you're taking Praetorians, you have to think about it.
Yeah.
Which is
that's fair. Okay. Ba-boom. Mortian? I don't know how you pronounce his name. This guy.
no one's ever played him before, so
remember how this was the first guy we actually saw from this army?
Oh wow.
Like in the first teaser animated video, he was the lone figure standing on the ridge, like talking about collecting the tithe. And
Yeah.
then that was the last time anybody ever saw this guy because he never hit a table ever. Okay.
That might change now.
Sure.
Yep.
So he is 140 points. He is a 2-cast wizard, 6 wounds, 4 up save, blah, blah, blah. He also knows the spell lore. Okay. And he has maybe one of the crazier abilities I've ever seen on a hero.
Yeah,
Again, when we talk about breaking new ground, right?
Yeah.
Like, his Mortal Touch spell is fine. It's what it is. And his Grim Warnings thing, we talked about earlier, if you're going to go the bravery route of being able to blah, 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 and you can shut off Inspiring Presence and yada, yada. There's more ways to shut off Inspiring Presence we'll talk about later as well. So that's all fine. Like, you know, all good. Neg 2 or Neg 3 bravery is very strong if there's no Inspiring Presence at play and you're making more models flee and all that. But Contract of Nagash. Can we talk about Contract of Nagash for a minute? Okay. At the start of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of this unit and roll a die. On a 3-up, your opponent must spend a command point to pick this unit to be the target of that enemy unit's attacks in that phase. What an absolutely fascinating defensive ability for a spellcasty hero. Like, okay, I don't know who wrote this contract, but man, that is some ironclad verbiage there. The KO are jealous of this kind of contract writing. This is some good stuff.
Spend a command point to read the paperwork in time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, that's a really, really, really strong defensive ability. Forget having a 4-up ward. I'll have a 3-up, I can't be attacked. That's pretty good. Especially in the current season where I'm not getting shot. Well, I guess he is unique, so that's not happening. You know,
he is getting shot.
He is getting shot, but you know, but still, it's pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. You finding a home for this guy in a non both big boys list? What do you think about him?
At 140, it's compelling.
Sure.
He becomes effectively automatic, right? So at 160, right, is where your other 2-cast 2 unbind with your Soul Mason is gonna fit. If you can't get to 160, you're running Vakmortian. It's what you do.
Okay.
So you're gonna see him in armies if for no reason other than just, hey, the points didn't work, and you don't feel stupid for doing it.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's interesting. He's like he's in the conversation now. Like, oh, he is also tidally locked to Mortis Praetorians. I should also say that because he is part of that whole crew. They all travel around together. They're like a gang. Okay.
If we were doing Helm of Tyranny, enemy units can never receive the Inspiring Presence within 3 of the Baron. In addition, if fail battle shock within 3, add D3 to the number of models. And we're doing Horrorghast. Can we stack that? Or are we having to choose one or the other?
Both.
Can you where you could get some 2D3 action going?
Yeah, why can't you do both?
Don't see any reason why both wouldn't apply. Yeah.
I would think so. Yeah, I was thinking about that combo when I was reading this guy. Sure. Yeah, with the -2 bravery. Yeah, I dig this dude.
You're gonna have to find a 3rd wizard to get all 3 of these endless spells in your list, though.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
A man can dream.
Sure. All right. Tell me, Brendan, about the Ossiarch, our new guy that you held up earlier. What's your take on the Ossiarch, our new hero?
Is interesting. So he in your hero phase, you can pick one unit wholly within 12 inches of him. It's got to be a harvester, a crawler, or a Morghast unit, and you can pick one of the 3 effects. 2 of the 3 are really good. The first one is improve the Ren characteristics of melee weapons by 1. Good. The other one is the first wound or mortal wound cause that unit each phase is ignored. And then the last one is for the catapults, and I guess technically the harvesters. 6 is to hit, score 2 hits instead of 1. So that's pretty good. You've got a spell that allows you to pick up to 3 units to get the same enhancement. wholly within 24 inches. So, I mean, if you're running 3 catapults or, multiple units of Morgas, or also multiple Morgas and a Harvester to get the extra rend, this unit feels automatic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, so it's interesting. We had the discussion earlier about opening up new play avenues. And clearly there is some element of what they're pushing on here with that. But I didn't feel like it was really doing enough to make me want to go, okay, cool, I'm going to build that army now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, it's some neat buffs for those units. That's cool. But no part of it made me go, this is a viable strategy now. Right? To sort of center
if
my
I'm
army
doing
around
this becomes mandatory. Right? It's you don't have to.
Right. So I feel like this is a step in the right direction, but we still got a couple more steps to go if we're going to do these silly 1 new heroes with every book. So, yeah, this guy kind of underwhelmed me a little. Hey, I'm not against +1 rend. It's generally a good buff, but was my overall read. Okay. The Mortison Bone Shaper. Shaping them bones. At 120 points. For your standard 5-up, 4-up type of situation here. He is a single cast wizard. He is a bone shaper, so he has his version of the thing we've talked about multiple times now on Katakros and Archon and so on. But he picks 1 unit, but he can still do his thing, including Return a Slain Stalker or Immortus Guard. And he also has a nice horde, horde thinner type spell. So
yeah.
Okay. Pretty
solid.
Pretty solid, simple utility caster hero. Like, he casts a spell, he does a thing, he's got a pretty good spell. He's 120 points. All right.
Yep.
Great. Like, okay.
He'll make it. Yeah, he'll be in a number of lists. Yeah.
Sure.
It's basically this page I was looking at for that, like Katakros, Leech Cavalos, and a Galley Champ. And in my mind, it was Bone Shaper or Soul Mason. Unless I'm looking at, like, maybe Vok Mortian or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Soul Mason's not a Galley Champ.
Oh, it's got
He's
mount.
got a mount.
Oh, bummer.
Yep, he's walking around on the throne. That is a mount. It's not a companion. Might have been. They could have said it's a companion because, like, it's a walking chair. But like, I don't know what it is. But no, it is in fact a mount. So yes, he's not a Galley Champ. Brendan, the Soul Mason? He's your 160 point dual caster wizard, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's it. That's where the discussion begins and ends, right?
Yeah. Dual caster, knows the full lore. Oh, at the end of your hero phase, you roll a dice. On a 1, nothing happens. On a 2 to 5, you get to cast his Warscroll spell. On a 6, you get to cast his Warscroll spell D3 times.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And his Warscroll spell is Mortek Guard or Cavalos Death Riders is +1 to wound. Cool. That's nuts for 160 points. Like,
Yep.
Pretty great.
How many armies would be jumping over themselves to get exactly that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, he's packing a double caster body with a good ability, as you mentioned, onto a 160 point frame. To me is like, yep, okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty worth it. It's pretty good. It should also be stated that because he's a Mortison hero, we didn't. You'll see it later on, but he is also then one of the same with Mortison, Bone Shaper, and so on. These guys are the battle line enablers for Immortus Guard and like he and the Bone Shaper and so on. All the Mortisons, they do have the ability to turn your Immortus Guard and your Necropolis Stalkers into battle line units. So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, he was number on the board for me when I was thinking about little heroes as the first slot. But I did miss the mount. That's unfortunate that he's not a Galley Champ, but still
He's
great.
got a mount.
Yeah.
He's got a mount. Okay, cool. Ba-boom. Let's keep going. The Mortison Soul Reaper. Soul Reaper. So, in the last book, You didn't really see this guy very much.
Yeah.
He is like the coolest sculpt in the army.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just be straight. Other than the Underworld's warband.
Yeah. Eric Conan. Yeah.
Yes. Other than that, this dude's like the coolest sculpt in the army.
Useless Warscroll. Waste of time. Does nothing.
Yeah.
Yep. The best Mortison Soul Reaper was the one that Meph was NPCing in our Soulbound game. That dude was pretty good. Yeah, no, I agree. Like I don't know the list I'd put this guy into. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's 120 points, and if you are in a place where you have 120 points to throw around, you're taking a Bone Shaper or you're taking an Ossifactor. You're not taking this. Like if he was 80 points or 100 points, then you go, okay, weird point number. Like he fits. Like I'm taking him then, right? Like the same Vokmortian situation. Like I want this other unit. I don't have enough points. I have this other thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, at 120, he's just getting smashed by the other options at the same point level or very close to it. So, yep. Okay.
Thought he was the one clear miss of this Battletome as far as Warscrolls.
Yeah, well,
maybe you have some others, but it really stood out to me.
I mean, it's not like all the rest of the heroes in my mind are evenly dispersed, right? Like some of them have more uses than others, but they're all at least like in the conversation. This dude was just like, nope, never. I don't know the world. And again, it's a shame because he is the coolest looking model. Like this dude is super awesome looking. Okay. Yeah, the Dias cast said we have a Bone Shaper at home. This is the Bone Shaper at home. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. All right, Mortek Guard. I mean, they are the backbone.
They are who we thought they were?
Of the army.
Excellent, yeah.
Okay. And they have their shield wall command ability. You can use this command ability at the start of the combat phase. The command ability can only be issued by this unit's Mortek Hekatos, and this unit must receive the command. Ignore modifiers positive and negative to save rolls for attacks that target this unit in that phase. And just go ethereal, I guess. Okay. They are 150 points for 10. They are still a 1 wound model. It was honestly a question in my head. Like, before I got this book, the biggest question I honestly had about this was, are Mortek Guard going to become 2 wounds? Like, I could see the world where that happens. Right?
If they were on 32s, man, they're on 25s for some dumb reason.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, that might have been what ultimately broke it in the favor of keeping him at 1, right? And by the way, a lot of other stuff would have changed if they had become 2 wounds. But we've seen a lot of movement up to 2 wounds on troops that act a lot like this in recent books, right? So it wouldn't have been like beyond the pale in any way. But no, here we are. And, you know, their basic attack, if you're taking the blades, is 2 attacks, 3s, 4s, neg 1/1, or you can 2-inch reach it for 2 attacks, 4s, 4s, neg 1/1. And then you've got your dude with his great blade. Okay. Mortek Guard. How much of Mortek Guard's value, Brendan, lives off this scroll?
Very little.
No, what I mean is like if you just read this scroll, you'd look at it and go, yeah, that's pretty good. Is it really 150? But what I'm saying is I think...
Oh, yeah. All the power is in everything we've read before this.
Right. That's what 100%. What I'm going for. Yeah. Exactly. Like, there's such a synergistic piece with everything else we've said so far, right?
Yeah.
I think they're a little underwhelming even at 150 with all the pieces. But I don't think I'm not going to sit here and advocate they got to be 120. Like,
yeah. You want that wound value to be 3 instead of 4? Is that the main thing?
Probably. I think 120 is probably too low, but I think 130 to 140, like just everything in this book feels 10 to 20 points over. Right? Like it feels like you're just missing a reinforcement or 1 unit all the way through.
Good place to start. I love that.
Agreed. I think that's always a better place to start. Like start a little softer, a little higher. That can be corrected. And they've shown a willingness to do that, right? So it's good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah, I
it's-
mean, baseline, these guys are very easily just straight up 4-up ethereal, 5-up.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a very tough unit, and especially like.
Well, you can't do that. You
Oh,
can't be
right.
4-up ethereal
Not
and
in,
5-up.
Oh, you're right,
It's-
because they're both combat
Yeah.
phase. I'm sorry, you're right.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're right. I missed that they're both combat phase abilities. You're absolutely right. You got me. You got me there. It's one for you. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, they're tough, but they can be backed up by the Harvester, so they can either be 4-up ethereal 6-up or 4-up, or like depending on the Ren situation. What's going to happen a lot, depending on the Ren situation and depending on what's going on in the rest of the place. You're not using Shield Wall. You're using Katakros' ability and
and an all-out defense and Mystic Shield.
Mystic Shield.
Yep.
Yeah.
and then going to the 5-up, and then they just become very, very difficult to shift. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's only if you're punching at somebody who's like super rend and you didn't get to buff them, but it's nice that they have that fallback. So
Yeah.
Still usually blades, netherite blades over spears. Obviously, it might
Yeah.
depend on the unit size, but just in general, because they're on 25s, just still.
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
think even in a brick of 30, you're getting most, if not all of them in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
finally, the weapon upgrade does something, so that's good. Because before it wasn't Natterite, and there was no reason to take it, so
yeah.
it does something now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Okay. Good. Like they're good. They're. I agree with you. They probably feel like they should be. I don't know. I'd come down to 140 pretty easily. Like I wouldn't have to be argued into that very hard. But yeah, it's not like they're crazy. It's not like we came in at 180 or 200 or something where I'm just like, what were you even thinking? You know? Okay, Immortus Guard and the Necropolis Stalkers. These are our big boys. And they are big boys. The 5
They
wound
are
models. Yes, indeed. The Immortus Guard, 5 wound models with a 3-up save. They are both elite. They can both issue their units. They're 200 for 3. They go battle line with a Mortis and Jenny. The Stalkers are 5 wounds with a 4-up save. They're 220 for 3 and go battle line with the Mortison. They are both Hekatos units, which is relevant if you're wanting to be in our aforementioned Petrifex Elite, where they can also then become just absorb a coalesced neg 1 to damage ability. Very, very strong, especially on the Immortus Guard. Oh my god, are those guys hard to shift at that point.
Yeah.
And they still bodyguard if a friendly this is the Immortus Guard. If a friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers hero is within 3 inches of this unit before you allocate a wound or mortal wound to that hero, on a 2-up, it gets allocated to this unit instead. And that instead of that hero, and cannot be negated. So, cool. Good. I'm glad we added that extra and cannot be negated verbiage. That is the correct way these things should all work. Thank you. I am okay with that when we do it the right way. Like, bodyguarding is fine. Even this, which is like one of the most effective bodyguards at a straight 2-up ward for your heroes. Really strong. Most time, obviously, this rule pops on a 3-up. So, big difference. Right? And they have a Crushing Assault. You can use this command ability once per battle after this unit has fought for the first time in the combat phase. This command can only be issued by a model in this unit, and this unit must receive the command. This unit can fight for a second time in that phase. The Strike Last effect applies to them. Okay. And by the way, their attack profile is like good. It's good. 3 attacks, 3 threes, neg 2/2. Good. It's a good profile.
You're not going to be able to get to much better than what's listed, right? Because this is a command that would occur in the combat phase. So you have to pre-plan for it.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but there's ways to get +1 to hit and +1 to wound without spending command points on the unit specifically. So, oh no, you're stuck at Ren 2.
Yep, exactly. Like, good base rend, good base damage. There is some risk here that somebody just like plows into a nearby hero and then pushes a bunch of wounds through on them, right? Because it's not an optional bodyguard rule. It's just they do it.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Like
I missed that. Huh.
Like it just says if it would happen, roll a dice. On a 2-up, they're eating it, right?
Oh, that's a pretty big deal. Yeah.
So like you do have to be a little cagey with how you bodyguard them and like not have like you have some squish boy caster hero standing next to them, and somebody just plows into it with like 3 pigs into the hero and just like forces a bunch of free wounds through onto your Immortus guard.
Yeah,
Right? Like
totally.
which is the play. Like, boy oh
Yeah,
boy, that's
absolutely.
the play.
That's why you just park them next to Katakros.
Right, sure. It's like, yeah, go ahead. Go nuts, man. Good luck. So anyways, but yeah, I like these guys. I feel like we mentioned it at the top of the show, but yeah, man, they feel usable for one of the first times that I've talked about this scroll and said those words together.
And again, they feel usable at 200, but they just feel like 10 or 20 points, like a little too much. And I won't belabor that point much more, but that speaks to the improvement that this Warscroll has had, where you look at it and you go, oh, finally, the 6 I built 3 years ago.
Right.
I'll actually talk about taking.
Yep. Necropolis Stalkers are very much still Necropolis Stalkers. Like, if you remember Necropolis Stalkers, you're correct. That's they're choppy, killy. You know, they're the offense. By the way, this is
They're
actually
good.
they're good. Like, you've got a grindy, tanky attrition unit, and you've got like a choppy hammer unit. I like when we see very clear role distinctions like this, and they do that.
Yeah.
Their hunt and kill is actually pretty interesting. That's their unique command ability. You can use this command ability in your hero phase. This can only be issued by a model in this unit. It must be received by this unit. Blah blah blah. Until your next hero phase, this unit can run and still charge later in the turn. In addition, until your next hero phase, models in this unit can pass across terrain features in the same manner as models that can fly. Not super useful unless you're crazy boosting their run, because like your average run is going to be 9 inches. Big terrain, depending on what's going on, you may not even be able to get sort of all the way over in any kind of reasonable way, but it's still useful. It's cool. Like, it's a cool ability. I'm not sad about it. Run and charge.
I still don't think that, right, you're using it other than to try and do the run and charge part of it. And even then, I don't know that it matters, because it means that you're not receiving a +1 attack command ability in the hero phase, which this unit loves to take. You can't run and use the +3 because the +3 to move is specifically a normal move. So if your average result is going to be the same thing as spending the command point to just move that average result, I don't know why you do this other than to try and get past a terrain feature specifically, or you're hoping to roll high.
Sure. I mean, what I'll say is run and charge is just generally a good ability to have, right? Like, because it gives you the optionality that's like, okay, if I roll the big number, I can get the distance and get there. Like, it becomes an option. And I agree. Like, the going over terrain is just nice. It's a nice extra thing that they clearly realized, wait, we have to give this command something else. Otherwise, it is going to lose out to the +3 move every time. Right? So I think you won't be able to get over like a lot of big terrain. Like, you know, Tyler Nashcon, some of the terrain we see on the table there. Right? And some of it's so big, you're going to get over
even
part
if you just
of it
use
and
it to
then
cut
land.
a corner.
Sure. Which is, yes, that's what you're going to do. You're going to cut a lot of corners, right? You're going to get over the castle and end up on top of the castle. And it's like, oh, okay. Or something. So, yeah. But it's not bad. They're really good. I like these guys a lot. They're very deadly. In Petrifex Elite, they are horrifying, frankly. So, yeah. Because I appreciate the power of a hammer unit that's neg 1 to damage. Neg 1 to be damaged. Like, that's, as we have seen, is strong.
Seems good.
Yeah, seems good.
This was the war scroll that, stood out as a potential concern of getting spammed in Petrifex Elite, Battle Line, Mortison. We'll see, because this war scroll just sings. You get Katakros, +1 to save. You can make them incredibly tanky, the best save stacking potential of the Battletome with Blade Parry Aspect, Katakros, etc., Mystic Shield. So yeah, they're nuts. I don't know, we'll see. I'm hoping that that's not like one of the standout builds is just let's continue spamming stalkers, because obviously that's where the book ended up last time.
Right.
2x9 or whatever it was. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. I still think even at 5 wounds, there's an objective control challenge there in the current world, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
And if only there was some way of getting around that in this book.
If only. If only, huh? Boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
I guess we should just stop reading here and not inquire any farther. Boy, you aren't wrong on that. I read that. I read what you're talking about, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Crazy.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does what?
Yeah, exactly. We'll get there, everybody. Don't worry. Okay. Liege Cavalos. 7 wounds, 3 up save. This is our Mountie Boy generic hero. He's 180 points. Yeah. Is that right? Is he 180? Somebody said 170 earlier. Did I write down the wrong thing?
I thought it was...
Let me make sure I didn't write down the wrong thing. Liege Cavalos. Nope, 180. Okay.
Okay. I'm bad at reading.
No, it's okay. I just want to make sure I wasn't wrong. And he also can issue a command to a friendly OBR unit without a command point being spent. Cool. Good stuff. He has his unstoppable charge, just like Xantos or whatever his name is. And he can pile in more. And he has endless duty. You can use his command ability in your hero phase. The unit that receives this command must be a friendly Ossiarch Bonereapers unit. Until your next hero phase, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of that unit's melee weapon. So, still got his +1 attack command ability. He's pretty much what he was. Good old generic mounted good guy on a weird round base. Why he's on a round base and not a cavalry base has it just annoyed me to no end.
What is that? Is that an 80?
He's on 100, I think.
100?
No, he's got to be on an 80 mil round, right?
He's on the same base as the Eidolon and the Mangler Squig, and I think that's 100.
I think those are 100.
Okay. That's wild. That is insane. Yeah, I mean, what's your take on this guy? Tyler, you want to? Yeah, sure, easy. Okay, Tyler, you had talked about this guy a little before. Where you live?
Yeah, I dig. Yeah, I dig this dude. Like I said, I mean, it's hard to pass up diversionary tactics. Subtract 3 from charge rolls. Put that on your Jenny. Have a good time. But if you want to go in the ignore negative modifiers, save rolls for attacks that target this general, the mighty Arcosian, however the hell you pronounce that. This guy's your man, right? You just making them this distraction card effects, pinning piece. Like I said, you can lean into stacking the wards as well. And if I'm reading things right in terms of what you can do, you can get them to a 2-up ignoring rends and a 3-up wards if you get all the goodies off. Because I'm pretty sure you're stacking. You can stack the spell. There's a spell, right? I don't know. There's a couple of ways to stack things that I saw in this battle.
You can get them to be a 3-up against mortals.
Mortals. That's it, against mortals. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
And you can get yourself to be a 4-up against everything.
Yeah, load of saturation. You hit him with that artifact. Add 1 to ward rolls for the bear.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think he's interesting in that role, like just as a tech piece for an army. That's kind of cool. And obviously that's an amazing command ability. Yeah, pop that on some stalkers, have a good time, or Mortis Guard, whatever.
Yep. It's also interesting to see a mounted cavalry hero that doesn't have the I need to charge to be my fighty guy buff.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's not like a lance or something like that. Like yes, I understand he has his unstoppable charge, blah, blah, blah. Like, I get it. It's not that's not a thing.
Yeah.
My point is, it's not like his weapon profile and stuff like that. He's actually, because you can make him that tough, he's actually okay to be out there and be a sort of receive a charge piece and just you can bank on him living, which is interesting again because of his higher mobility versus sort of the rest of the army and what you can accomplish there. So
we've talked. Just love pieces like that in lists, right? Like it's just another tool in the toolbox that can have all kinds of different uses in a game. You know, like I've often tried to play with pieces like that in a list, and it just adds so much utility, versatility. And this guy, really sings to me in that regard. Yeah, quite cool.
Absolutely. All right. Cool. And then the Death Riders, who are now they're 170, so that's probably where your brain was at. They're 170 for 5. And they are battle line. Give me your Death Rider readout, Brendan. Where are you living on Death Riders?
So more text on horses in terms of just what your profile is dealing with. The impact hits are nice. The 6-inch pile-in after you charge is nice. The real tech piece is the Death Rider wedge, though. So this is their command ability, and you can use it in the charge phase. And so normally what this means is it's going to let you charge over screens or charge out from behind your units. But you can use it in any charge phase. So you can use this in the enemy charge phase with Mortis Praetorians and use it to charge over your screen into a unit or over and around part of their units.
Yeah.
It's and you don't have to use it at the start, so you can see if you get a charge roll that you like that's high enough to get where you need to go, or you can spend the point to re-roll the charge, or you can do it to use this to land in a slightly different place.
What?
It's yeah.
Let's see. Mortis and Praetorians.
Yeah.
Where's Mortis and Praetorians? Where is it? Where is it? What's
The enemy charge phase.
Finishes a charge move. 12-inch. The unit can attempt to charge. I see. Okay. Clever. All right. I dig it. I missed that. That's great.
Yeah. 170 points is probably about right.
Sure.
You know, they're 15 wounds. They do some good damage. Yeah, they're good.
Okay. So here's the test. You ready for the test?
Okay, I'm ready for the test.
Are you now, like, they're battle line all the time. Are you now taking a unit of these in most of your builds? Like, do you have a 5-pack of these as sort of standard in what the average build you'd make?
I never stopped running Death Riders. I always had Death Riders. Always.
They fell off in a big way. Like, they were when they had their initial cheater wedge nonsense, people were running them left and right to do silly things, right?
Hey man, that's fine. I believe in fast screens.
Sure. So you're back to always having these in your list. Like, for your money, this is like, yeah, we're here. We're living this.
Yeah, they're even better now. Sign me up.
Okay. Cool. Good. Okay. Mortec Crawler. It's a shooty catapult, obviously.
It's less complicated, and I love that.
Sure. Where's the ballisty, you cowards? In the stories for these guys, they have big ballistas as well. And yet, where's that model? I'm just saying, I want the cool model that, like, penetrates through quote unquote ranks and stuff like that. I want that back. Anyways, that's just me wanting to see more of the mixed arms force, like we mentioned earlier. Okay, so we got 3 attack modes. We'll come back to that in a second. All right. So again, because everything in this army is 200 points, this is 200 points. Each time this unit shoots, choose either the Cauldron of Torment, Necrotic Skulls, or Cursed Steel Weapon characteristics for all the attacks it makes with a Dread Catapult. And then Deathly Barrage. After this unit shoots, roll a dice for each enemy unit that was targeted by this unit's attacks in that phase. Add 2 to the roll if that unit was targeted by all of this unit's attacks in that phase. On a 5-up/3-up, because that's actually what it's going to be all the time. The Strike Last effect applies to that unit until the end of that turn. Okay, cool. Just until the end of that turn. But that's obviously still quite relevant for going for the combo, the Wombo combo charge effect here, trying to use your pieces in a mixed arms way to create synergies. I appreciate this. I appreciate the nod to that sort of thing. So let's talk about the actual weapon profiles. Okay. All of them have a range, a 6-inch min, which is funny that we're still keeping that on some things. Like, we're sticking with the minimums on a very few Warscrolls. We have to write a bunch of rules for this thing used on, like, what, 4 Warscrolls? Something like that? Have minimums?
Not many.
No, it's like the Scrap Launcher, the Plague Catapult, this thing.
Well, if it's a catapult, then it's got a minimum.
I guess it's just, if it's a catapult, it's minimum 6. That's it. You can't, it's got to arc somewhere, okay? Like, forget it. Okay. Anyways, the Cauldron of Torment, 2d6 attacks, 3/3 no rend 2 damage. The Necrotic Skulls, 4 attacks, 3/3 neg 1 2 damage. And then the Cursed Steel, 1 attack, 2/3 neg 2 d3 plus 3. So we basically have sort of 3 different damage settings. But obviously the other advantage here that shouldn't be understated is that the Cursed Steel does go very far. It has a 36-inch range at the far end, as opposed to the Cauldron thing, which is only 18 inches. So there's a big difference. Read that, by the way, at, like, in my mind, I know it's easy to look at 2d6 attacks and think 12 or something like that. Like, we all want to see that. But in my mind...
7.
Yeah, exactly. I read that as 741. That's how I'm looking at that, right? So when you're sort of doing the math in your head, that's how you should be thinking about it. Yeah, Tyler, what do you think of the new and improved Mortek crawler?
Oh, was that me?
That was you.
So
He's deep in thought.
I don't love it, which I'm excited about. I'm glad that I don't love this thing. I think maybe it needs to be a little cheaper than 200. I dig the rules. You know, the Platonic Ideal in action, combined arms. Thank you, as you said, GW. Yeah, it's a little high. But yeah, I think it just needs to come down a little bit. I have a hard time putting it into my list right now. That's where I'm at.
Okay, Brandon, where are you living with the crawler?
I hate the shooting phase in general. It just doesn't work for me.
Says the guy running 12 Storm Fiends. Hey, you had melee options with Skaven, and you went the other direction. You made a choice.
It's a protest choice, Vince. There's a pattern.
No one told me I had to play Skaven. You didn't tell me what kind of Skaven.
Totally fair. I'm saying 30 Storm Vermin were on the table. Okay, go ahead. They even said Storm as the first word. It's basically the same unit. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no differences whatsoever. It's fine. You know, this probably belongs at about 180 to 170 points.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things that's maybe interesting is taking 2 to 3 of them with an Ossifactor and just seeing how much damage you can put down to as many units as possible.
Are you able to, with the, spell right, that allows you to pick up to 3 different units to benefit? Can you pick the same one? You could just do rend for all 3?
No, so rend is melee only.
It's melee only. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Is that true?
So,
okay, let's check here.
So the catapult buff is 6's explode. So the missile weapons don't have explosions naturally. The Ossifactor has to give it to them.
Okay. It is melee only. All right. That's probably good.
Yeah, so...
yeah, Purple Sun. Get Arkin maybe. Somebody that's toss out a reliable Purple Sun.
Oh, now we're cooking with gas.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a possibility. I don't know that that's what you're going to lean to, but...
Sure.
I mean, you can. There's better stuff. You know, like, you can take a catapult as a support piece and feel okay about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's the minimum threshold, right? You want to see a lot of lists that has at least one of these things. And I just don't know if many lists are going to have one of these things at 200, which I hate to say because, yeah, screw shooting. Like shooting. Somebody on the show has been preaching from the ramparts for years that shooting needs to be expensive. Somebody.
Yeah, my Storm Fiends are like 320 points, so...
yeah.
Expensive achieved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take the counterpoint here slightly. That I do think it's quite strong because 3-up strike last on your turn is a powerful effect.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what it comes down to. You know, like, yeah, the actual damage you get out of it is like passable at best. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Okay. You're taking it because it's just targeting them. You don't have to actually hit or wound
or
to resolve the strike last effect. That's very potent. If it was like if it was a wound is allocated, right, and a successful wound is allocated,
then you just go, ugh.
Right, then I'd be living in your camp completely, okay?
Yeah.
But the fact that I can just go, that unit at range, like when we had this on melee keepers, everybody lost their minds for a year, okay? And now I'm just passing this out at
It was
36
on a
cents.
2-up.
Yeah, all over the place.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hold on, it was on a 2-up, Vince.
Post FAQ, it went to a 3-up, but yes, you're correct. It was on a 2-up. But that's my point. You can hand this out theoretically in multiples, although I do think that's probably an overinvestment.
Yeah.
Because you really don't need to make that many units strike last. You need to make that unit strike last. Right.
Take 3 of them. You pick
Good.
every unit.
Right. Yeah. And like it's a classic. That's a classic tale of like hat on a hat, right? I mean, what running keepers with strike last for that long taught me was that I don't need to make their whole army strike last. I need to make this one unit that I plan to decimate strike last. Right. Colloquial modern version of decimate, not classic Roman version of decimate. So
I don't have a good intuitive sense of how important or how meaningful strike last is to OBR specifically with the nature of this art. I mean, not like you'd have a better sense of that. I also, of course, I mean, I hate the 200 points. If you're just telling me, Vince, that I'm looking for a 3-up, that's my 200 point investment. Can I roll a 3-up? Eh.
No, I mean, sure. That's all fine. Like, it's still also some range damage that puts some pressure on them to move around.
Yeah.
And not just like leave individual dorky heroes hanging out on a point by themselves with their butts flapping in the wind, right? Like it does give you some ability to threaten crap behavior like that, right?
Yeah, 2-up, 3-up, Ren 2s, D3 plus 3. Let's see what happens.
Right, yeah, like if somebody like how often do people often in late game just leave little dorky 5-wound heroes sitting on a point to be a deck chair sitter, right?
Yeah, you're not selling me. 2-up, 3-up. That's an auto miss in my 8 years of playing. I don't know what game you guys are playing.
Course. We all know a single shooting attack is very likely to miss, but it at least threatens the reality of the thing.
I've used enough Tree Lord Ancients to know that this doesn't work.
Yes. So
all right.
Yeah, I don't want to be on this side, but I think it's a little too high, which I hate to say.
Sure. All right, let's move on to the Harvester, your monster in this army proper. I'm not counting Nagash again.
Arcane has a monster. Get out of here.
He does have all right, fair point. He does have a monster underneath him. That's fair. I'm not swinging that dude into I'm trying very hard not to ever roar with Archon. Let me just say that. My goal is that he never needs to use roar.
That's right,
against anything but yeah, exactly, because I'm only going into like chaff units that I'm trying to instantly murderize to heal my 6 wounds. Okay. So at any rate, the Harvester. He does Harvester things. He puts stuff back or heals wounds. It depends on the wounds characteristic of the thing being picked. Right?
And the range has been up to 6 inches instead of 3.
Yes.
Nice.
He still has a little bit of a range profile. It doesn't matter. And he's still a pretty decent little fighter in melee. Again, nothing to write home about, but he can hold his own. He's got some damage.
Yeah.
At 210 points, again, 10 wounds on a 4-up save. He is sort of the worst case scenario with wounds, but it doesn't really matter that much with him. So where
there's got to be an economics argument here. Mortec Guard and Harvester. What do the economics say on the are we getting a more efficient choice in including a Harvester as opposed to just taking more Mortec Guard or whatever? But I guess in particular Mortec Guard.
I think so. It's your out of phase healing, right? You've effectively given your unit it's a 4-up, 6-up, 4-up. From dying. Like, yeah, there's some returning mechanics in 3.0 that are very specific, but the model still comes back, just slightly differently.
Yeah.
And then it's also a 4-up on what you kill. To put your unit back on the table, that feels bad.
It's immediately, that roll the dice each time a slay model. Yeah.
Yep.
I've always been impressed by this thing. Like every time I played OBR and there's one of these things in the list, it's so annoying.
You gotta prioritize it a little bit.
You do, yeah. It's like it immediately goes to the number one target, number one on the priority list. And
Right.
yeah, if you don't have range projection, it's an absolute pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
In my mind, the value that this thing returns is so outsized over what it exists as. Like, how it lets you play is so different in what it's actually achieving. That's very funny. Daniel Schreiber, worth noting, the Harvester can be reinforced. I had to go look in the book. It seems they forgot the single word
whoops.
from the thing, so confirmed it does not have the single word in there. Again, I would be highly willing to bet that this gets single stapled to it in an FAQ, and that is an error.
We still have reinforceable bloodthirsters.
Yeah.
So that's
Well, we haven't got a formal corn FAQ yet, so
they can fix it whenever they want, Vince. It's digital. They can do it right now.
This moment, it just got posted. There it is. let me let you know a secret. It's going to be single on the Bloodthirster. I don't know that, but I know that, right? Like that's one of those things. Yeah, I mean, the Harvester, regardless of a reinforcement thing, that's most likely an error. In my mind, like, I don't know. Here's what I'll say. In most versions of the army that I would see myself running, or like, not that I would actually play this army ever, because I truly hate this army, but like, if I'm building a list in my mind, because that's what we all do when we read these books, right? You build the list in your head, regardless of your desire to play it. And in almost every sort of version of the list that I crack together in my head, this dude's showing up in the list. He just is. I just think the utility this guy brings to the table is so high. And at a deeper level, I don't care if he becomes a pincushion or the focus fire piece.
Not the end of the world.
Like, if I'm making those choices for my enemy, I'm actually pretty happy about it.
Yeah.
So this dude's all upside to me. Like, that's where I live on him. And 210 is fine. Like, I don't feel like I'm overpaying for that. It's fine.
Yeah, every time I played against it, it creates that weird damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. I don't want to be shooting at this thing with, 10 bow snakes or 6 long strikes or whatever the hell. But yeah,
because you do have to put some real heat into him to bring him down. It's not like you can just like plink him with a few Ungor bows or something. He's not that.
It's got really not. I dig the melee profile. I don't think he was this good, Brendan, in his old melee profile. This seems pretty tasty.
He was this good.
It was this good? All right. Like,
he was better because he did mortal wounds as well, but also now 6s explode, so but now you don't like lose out for taking scythes on your hands, because before you took the bludgeons and that was the only choice.
Right.
Because the scythes were +1 to hit if it was a unit of 5 or more, and you were already +1 to hit, so
yet another great war scroll improvement. Like, just I would love to see all scrolls go to this. And that's something we really didn't hit on. I think, Brendan, you mentioned it a little bit. It is worth hammering in on just a moment more. I really like how much they cleaned up a lot of these scrolls and simplified a lot of the effects while still making them feel good and relevant and effectual. Without like the overwritten, overwrought nonsense that was on some of these scrolls in the past. Like, I just appreciate the cleanliness of a solid 3.0 tome. And I think this, like, thank you. Just, sickles or bludgeons. This is the profile. Go nuts. Have a good time. Like, here we are. And also 6 is double tapped now, because that's just how this works. So, so good. Great. Excellent. Okay. Cool. The Morghast. Our big 6-wound flyers. They're both elite. They're both 240 for 2. They're both battle line with either Nagash or Archon as your general. So there's a way to take these guys as battle line. I'll be honest, I like these guys, but I didn't really think about them too deeply. I mean, hit me, Brendan, with the breakdown of these guys. I didn't have time to ingest these guys fully. So, are these guys showing up in a list? What's the breakdown here?
I think they're interesting. So I think there's a place to run a 224 list where they're your battle line. You include Arcan, you include an Ossifactor. I mean, that's most of your list, but that enemy units cannot receive command abilities commands while they're within 3 inches of any of these units is nuts. it's you can't Inspiring Presence, you can't all-out defense, you can't all-out attack. I get all my buffs and you get nothing.
Yeah.
That's quite good. Charge unmodified charges of 8 up, you get strikes first. That's fine. The Archai get a 5-up ward if they're wholly within 12 inches of Bonereaper heroes, and the Harbingers can deploy off board, which I don't rate very highly. Just because like I don't know. That's fine, I guess. Again, at 240, probably a little spendy, but you get them buffed up right, and they do a lot of damage, and that's really good. This is a good unit for the countercharge and Mortis Praetorians as well, because you can just kind of use them as the looming precautionary threat of, hey, if you come near some of this other stuff, they're just a little too far away. If you come near some of this other stuff, I'm gonna roll this 8 up, and I'm gonna strike first. And you don't know that you're gonna roll the 8 up, but you go, remember, on my war scroll, I have, if I roll an 8+ on my charge, which is just slightly below average, I get to swing first, and then your unit gets to die.
It is quite a rattlesnake, I'll say that. Like, just the potential for that to happen is scary. You're not wrong. It should also be stated, remember, these guys are Hekatos, so if you don't go with the countercharge strategy, like Brennan's describing in Petrifex Elite, they become their neg 1 to be damaged, so like that's also quite strong.
Also good.
Yep. So I don't know, my problem with these guys has always been the wound count versus the points.
That's fair.
Like it's 12 wounds for 240 points. It's oof. And you have even like your board control problem becomes even more
problem.
Yeah, even more pronounced than what you were dealing with the sort of guard stalker army we were talking about earlier. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're gonna
can't score if you're dead.
It's true. That's a good point.
They've always been the stepchild of the army, and I think they're still gonna have a hard time making the cut. But yeah, Archai definitely stand out to me in terms of the options here. Yeah, for what Melnick just said.
Sure. They're much closer to being a real legitimate option in what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate a neg 2 run 3 damage weapon. Let me just say that.
Yeah.
Okay. Like that's a good profile.
I mean, you can get it to rend 3 with an Ossa factor, rend 4 with bludgeon, like you're just ripping through Star Drakes left and right.
Yeah.
Sure. Live in the dream. Rend 4. Just live in the dream.
Get out of here, Kragnos.
That would be very fun to just like buff those guys and plow that stupid centaur off the table. I do admit that makes me happy.
No, you can't. You can't all out defense. You just die.
That's right. Yep. That's right. Okay. Cool. Let's talk endless spells. Yep. 3 endless spells, of course.
There's the Nightmare Predator, who is good, but not what we're going to talk about.
Yes. So what amazes me about the Nightmare Predator, can I just talk about this real quick? I want to say, here's my thing to say about the Nightmare Predator. So, first of all, he does have a 20-inch threat range, which is impressive for a spell like this.
Very good.
And it's better than most damage endless spells. And he does do some decent-ish damage, hitting both the models he moves across and one unit he lands within an inch of. So he is a realistic threat to actually do damage turn 1, which is cool. I like endless spells that can actually hit the enemy lines turn 1, and he can do that. He's not going to pass over a lot of stuff, although it's very funny if they have pregame moves. Then he becomes even more hilarious. But what amazes me about this is not that is not his damage potential, his range. It's that he isn't the most expensive endless spell. That they didn't invert it and make him like 80 points was the shocker to me.
Sure. Right.
Yeah. Because normally the worst one is the most expensive, like almost always, right?
Totally. Yeah.
And he is the worst one, and he's still pretty decent. I don't want to like poop on this guy. He's decent. He's a nice guy. But really, let's talk about where the big show is, which is the next 2 endless spells. Here we go.
They're so dumb.
Yeah. Okay. Soul Stealer Carrion, your bird. So
Yep.
it's bone guy and bird. So the bird. Aviarch Sentry. That's what matters. All right. First of all, Brendan, what's the range on Soul Stealer Carrion? Where can I set this guy up?
Unlimited! So you can set it up anywhere on the battlefield that's visible to the caster, more than 1 inches from basically everything.
So strong, right out of the gate. Just like, can you see it? Then you can be it. Okay, great. That's a good start.
Yep.
What does this thing actually do that I can throw anywhere on the battlefield? Well, models with a wounds characteristic of 1 or 2 that are within 6 inches of this endless spell cannot contest objectives. This has no effect on OBR units.
Seems good.
I'm sorry, what?
So remember that board control problem you were talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Like, that is so wild, man. Like, 40 points for an unlimited range endless spell that just shuts off all 1 and 2 wound models from contesting. Holy crap on a cracker.
The only thing I'll say, I'm very grateful that this one and the next one are not on cast values of 8, which is what I might have expected based on some of the past choices, where they're like impossible to dispel. At least you can get rid of these things on average rolls or below average rolls, as I guess might be for the next one. Yeah.
I mean, you still got to roll the 7, which is like, okay, yeah, it's not the most impossible thing, but it's also not the easiest thing. Like, you have still a quite reasonable chance of failure trying to dispel. And if this thing sticks around for another time, like, boy, oh boy, is that a bad day for you. Oh, yeah. As your models are just sitting there not counting and dying. Okay. So now let's get to... Yes, so now we get to Manny Faces. You watch that way because you have Manny Faces. Okay, the Bone Tithe Shrieker. All right. So, casting value of 5 and a range of 12 inches, and it's predatory with an 8-inch fly. I appreciate this change, by the by. The fact that both of their mobile spells that want to go or zip around have a 20-inch range that they can be set up in.
Yeah.
I would love to see this with the normal endless spells that are completely underwhelming on damage and also have needlessly short ranges.
Set up, yeah.
Okay. At any rate, cool. Good. What does this thing do? Well, a lot. Like, probably too much for 50 points. But specifically, units cannot receive the Inspiring Presence or Rally commands while they're within 12 inches of this endless spell. No effect on your own units. Not that you care about the Inspiring Presence.
On its own, that might be worth 50 points.
Sure, we could stop there and I'd be like, this is a good endless spell. I support this. I love turning off Rally. I'm in for turning off Rally. Let's just kill it all. Let's turn it off from the game. So great. But then no, I was like, oh wait, hold on. I still get to keep reading. Okay.
And also,
no escape. Subtract 1 from ward rolls for units within 12 inches of this endless spell. This ability has no effect on Ossiarch Bonereaper units. Holy moly.
Cool.
What's up, Nurgle? How you doing over there, baby?
Sure. Everybody and their damn mother has a way to turn off wards in this game now, I swear, with these Battletomes coming out.
Nurgle was never better than the day it launched. That was it. That was the peak.
I think your whole prediction, like you had insider track information on how Nurgle's win rate's going to come to, the books were cooked on that prediction. I'm not admitting defeat, even if I'm wrong.
Sure.
Nonsense.
Thank you. I'm glad to see that the haters have come around. To all my haters, I love you. All right, so no, I mean, look, this endless spell is so good. Now,
it's so dumb.
It's so ridiculously good for 50 points. There was a question, Keith Rogers. Does Archon still increase the setup range of these doodads by 6 inches?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah.
because the spell to summon them should like the range should still happen.
Spells and endless spells. Let's see. Add 6 to the range of spells cast by Death Wizards, holy within 18. Yeah, I would guess this has come up before when it just has spells like that.
And I think there was like, I think a while back we had an answer in the FAQ that separated it, that said it wouldn't, but now I think it would. I don't know. Like, it's probably worth another FAQ just to make sure. But like, how I read this one, yes, it would, because it's responding to a standard range breakdown. But I could be wrong there. Always still worth an FAQ.
Sure.
All right, close it out on the Bone Tithe Nexus. Brendan, which one you pick?
The terrain piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which head are you firing off in most cases? What do you want here?
So I actually really like the way that they changed it, where it's just units within instead of wholly within. That's good. I like that they standardized the range. I like that they standardized the trigger condition for it. I think that's awesome. I think your most likely ones that you are going to be handing out is the punishment of agony, 4-up -1 to hit rolls, and probably the punishment of lethargy, 4-up -3 from charge rolls, and that unit can't run.
Ugh. Yuck.
Hope you like to be -6.
Yeah. I mean, we waited until the end to get to this point, but this is really important. Let me tell you what, man. I'm rolling at that punishment of lethargy every time and twice on Sunday if you'll let me. Like, are you for real over here? If that's combined with that -3 charge and that goes off, you just aren't getting charged. That's so much worse than what the Demon Corn Prince of Dumbness used to do. -6 is insane. It's insane.
You're 3 inches away and you have to land a 9-inch charge. Like,
correct.
Yeah. Just a very normal thing to happen.
Yes. Every charge becomes a long bomb charge. Everyone. They all do.
It's not every charge, right? So the punishment of lethargy is just 1 unit.
Correct.
To get that extra 3, right? It's a 4-up.
Sure.
It's a 3-up if you kill something near it. It's not automatic. But the -3 from the command trait is.
It is, yep. I'm just saying, I'm rolling that die. Yes, I agree. It's not the aura one. It is just 1 unit. But man, interesting thing. Most of the time, people have a hammer unit they're trying to bring toward you. That they would.
Craziest thing. Yeah, who would have guessed?
Yeah. So, like, you pretty much often know what you're trying to get at with that. So, feels like most of the time I would know which one I'm going to target with that. And if it goes off, I'm in a good place. It ain't bad. That is talk about a coin flip. You know, this is a No Country for Old Men situation. What's the most you've ever bet on a coin flip? You know, like, good Lord, this.
Love that movie. Yeah.
Because if the coin ends in your favor, their hammer unit's just dead.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
Seems good.
So that's pretty strong for a free terrain.
Seems all right.
It's not bad. A free terrain piece that's like massive. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you're allowed to replace pieces of terrain on the board with it.
Yeah.
Like that's just part of the setup rules. Like, oh, you can't fit it? You just take a piece of terrain off the board.
Yep. All right. So overall, let's close out here. Let's take just a quick 5 minutes to sum up. Let me explain. No, that would take too long. Let me sum up. Okay. So, the overall my feeling on this is like I said at the beginning, I think this is it's a strong army. It does have some clear Achilles heels, which I like. I like that in design. I feel like there are a couple things in here. We talked about it with like Null Myriad, the lethargy that I just talked about, but there's some other effects that I feel like are a little bit too strong of like, boy, you get this off and somebody has like a really terrible day, or you meet the right or wrong army and somebody has a really terrible day. And I would have rather see them flatten those just a little. But for the most part, I do like the core of this army. I like how synergistic it is. I like how well it uses command abilities. And I think it'll be in a lot of games, not every game. And there'll be some games I just think like the NPE is overwhelming against this army, and it makes people really mad and kind of like not have a good time. But I think in most games, it'll be a very fun army to try to like pick apart and crack and expose its weaknesses and stuff like that. And it'll give a good game. That's my read on it. Tyler, what do you think? And then I'll let Brendan close us out.
Yeah, as you're saying that, Vince, one thing that's popped through my head is this army as one of the test cases for more casual players or casual competitive players, maybe so-so pros, maybe.
He's got to make that merch, right?
Oh my God. That was incredible. Like, it's yeah. Like, I hope he understands. Like, he's on a gold mine. I find this army an interesting test case for that broader player base in terms of the experience that they have with this army, right? Like, we're going through this with our community right now. Our local player base is this odd mix of newer players. I don't know, maybe it's not so odd, but it's like, it's very defined on each end of the spectrum. Newer and then highly experienced players, right?
Sure.
And so we have most of our players locally, a lot of our players locally are losing a lot of games. And then we have a smaller number of players who've been playing forever, addicts forever, who are winning a lot of games, right?
Yep.
And then, so that creates this weird situation. And I do worry that Ossiarch may be one of those armies where a number of casual competitive players, they play it and they have that negative play experience for whatever, like, I can't do anything against this army. I'm dead by turn 2, blah, 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 right?
Sure.
So maybe that's a general description for a number of armies in the state of the game. I don't know. Like I told you last episode, I feel a little out of touch with like, where are we in this ecosystem? Like, how healthy are we right now? Which maybe that would be a good show to try to get up to speed on where we are right now.
Yeah, once we get to these Battletome reviews. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I just, but anyway, that's one of the general concerns that I have with the book. But overall, as an addict of 8 years, I love this Battletome because I do see a lot of constraints, a lot of ways to play against it, but it's also very strong. It's really interesting. It fits the theme. It's flavorful. Would love to see more Warscrolls to fill it out a little bit more. But yeah, and it's got a few edge cases that maybe a few points that are off, a few things maybe a little too strong. But yeah, pretty good overall.
Okay. Brendan, close us out.
Overall, pretty happy. The thing that's most important is that the book feels like it's supposed to. If everything feels the way it's supposed to, the points will end up where they need to end up.
Sure.
We have a quarterly adjustments, and they've demonstrated a willingness to try and move things into that 45 to 55% win rate range. So as long as a normal number of players are playing it, you're going to get a result that is normal. And not just a bunch of super competitive, everyone can win with it kind of things.
Sure.
I think there's only one War Scroll in the Battletome that's just outright junk, and it's the Soul Reaper. I think everything else, there's a case and an argument to be made. So for those of you that don't know, I'm on a podcast, Cubic Shenanigans, where my co-host Dan is kind of the voice of the everyman. People who attend tournaments and are looking to win more games than they lose, right? Go about 3-2, and that 3-2 state is what's most important in my mind. Where you can take basically any War Scroll you want in your list because you like it or whatever, you can build around it. You can take it and not feel like that you are going to fall into that 2 and 3 category where you're gonna lose more games than you win. There's really only one War Scroll that doesn't fit that place. We didn't talk about Mir Kainan. Mir Kainan is good.
Oh yeah. It's great.
Yeah, like it's a cool book. The mechanics are cool. It's a very rewarding play style if you want to invest the time into understanding how all of it works. I'm really excited to try and learn more and more of the mechanics. I love the Death Grand Alliance. This is my favorite army within that. It does some cool stuff. There's a cool aesthetic that I really enjoy. The play style is really neat. I don't like the shooting phase in general, so an army that like is heavily oriented wholly within the combat phase We're gonna pretend catapults don't exist.
Sure.
You know, like I get to do that. Like there's not really teleport shenanigans. Like it's as honest of a game of Warhammer as
Sure.
you can play.
Yeah.
This is where my stuff is. It moves 4 inches. I can do a little bit more than that, but at the end of the day, like it's what it is, and you're either gonna beat me straight up or you won't.
Nice. All right. Very good. Well, what do you think? Tell us. Put it in the comments. Tell us where you think this army's going to fall. All that kind of stuff. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Thank you, Brendan. Absolutely appreciate having you on again. Great time. Can't wait until you're rolling dice on my table, which will be hopefully not too long in the future.
Sooner than later.
Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it. We'll get you right in the normal crew. It's gonna be great. You'll love it. All right. So out there, hey, hit that like button. Why not? It's so easy. It helps other people find the show, and it costs you absolutely nothing. Looking right next to that, there's that little subscribe button. Click that thing too. Aren't those so easy to do? Those really help everybody else find the channel, and help YouTube and engagement and algorithms and I don't know, math. So that's all fun. If you want to support the channel in a bigger way, hey, there's a Patreon down there focused on taking your next step on your hobby journey and review and feedback and all of those great things in this fun hobby that we're all part of. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you next Wednesday for some Soulblight Gravelords.